Welcome back, everyone. It's good to see you all. I hope you're all doing a wonderful day. Good to see you, Andrew and MP83. Things of your mind. Everybody, welcome in. Today we have joining us McCall45, the ultimate streamer, maker of Kevin Costner's Waterworld. You could say it's McCall45's Kevin Costner's Waterworld. A very fun game, actually. And he is right here with me today. So without further ado, let's bring him on the screen. Hopefully it all works perfectly. It looks like it's not. Wonderful. Let me just try this one more time. There we go. Yeah, there he is. Hello.
Yeah. What's up, guys?
All right, I may need to turn you up.
How's it sound?
Should be good, but you're a little quiet. I'm just gonna try. I can't boost your volume anymore, so if you could do it on your end.
Is there a thing on?
I don't know.
Through guest star. This is like the third time I've used guest star.
Wow, I'm on it because that means 2 out of 3 is on my channel.
Yeah.
I can probably.
Any different?
Hang on a second. Let me see how would I do this?
What was it like on your birthday stream?
It was perfect actually then.
Is it the different switch on here? Is this changing something? Or has things automatically
Yeah, what I could do is actually say this is not normal, everybody. Normally I I do a better job of getting things set up. But I can boost you on the I can boost the desktop audio. Oh, I need to remember to pause alerts. I forgot that last time and it was a little bit embarrassing. All right, alerts are paused, everybody. So if you wanted to do anything, it's too late now. I'm also muting mix it up, so no sounds either. All right.
Is this any different? I just put it up on my system.
That's pretty good. You could stand to be boosted a little bit more. I'll do that on my end.
This is max. This is at 100 now.
Yeah, that's pretty good actually.
Yeah.
I hope chat agrees. So welcome, McCall. It's good to see you.
Good to see you as well. It's good to be back.
I wasn't able to watch most of your stream today. I was quite busy with my day job, but what happened? Because you were doing some Jim, what's his name? The artist. Hang on, it's right on my screen. Jim Lee. It's right on my screen.
Yeah, impromptu review of the new Indiana Jones, straight into Jim Lee's Wildcats. That's all. The Super Nintendo game that I like so much, which was developed by Beam Software.
Okay, turns out you were quite loud. So it was a Beam Software game. I just pulled back the audio a bit again. I might
could
have
go back
boosted
to 80% if it's.
No, I got it. I'm pretty sure we got it.
No worries.
Somebody said down too low. Are you joking? Oh, come on. Pedantic. No, it's good. It's good. Thank you for the feedback. I appreciate it. How's that? Hopefully that's okay. All right. Thank you, chat. So you did Jim Lee gameplay, but you did a review. I did actually catch a chunk of your Indiana Jones review. Yeah. So you watched it recently. First movie you watched in a while, or?
Since John Wick 4. I've seen John Wick 4 and Avatar 2 in cinemas. Those are the most recent cinema movies I've seen. You're
doing pretty well then, because I haven't watched either of those in cinema either. I don't remember the last cinema movie I watched. Been a while.
Yeah, I had a gap for a while there as well. It's kind of weird going back to cinemas, but
yep. No spoilers for John Wick 4. Okay. So tell me about Indiana Jones, because I did not get to see the whole review, but I did. When I commented it on Fate of Atlantis, you said you thought it was better than Fate of Atlantis. Is that true? Or are you full of it?
In the story, yes. The story, yes. But I mean, one's a movie and one's a game, so.
Okay.
Yeah. The story. Yeah. I mean, just to summarize, I was very much in the camp of I didn't care about this Indiana Jones movie at all. Not at all. I went to see it thinking it was going to be garbage. I just went because it was an Indiana Jones movie. And I saw Crystal Skull in the theaters just because it was the first Indiana Jones movie I had gotten to see in theaters.
Right.
And so, yeah, this is a movie that is like so high budget and no one cares about it. Like I'm pretty sure that Disney's going to lose a lot of money on this thing.
Really?
It costs like 400 million to make or something. Like, the budget's insane. At 300, 400 million. But there's like no traction. I don't think the movie's really got any traction. Like no one cares. I didn't care, but generally people just aren't really. I don't know. It seems to have very low hype. I could be wrong about this. We'll know numbers for box office pretty soon.
Yeah.
But yeah, like from my point of view, that's how it seems. And I was just gobsmacked that I ended up enjoying it when I thought it was going to be absolute garbage. So,
well, I heard it was going to be terrible, so I was like, "Oh, I'll watch it when it comes on like streaming I'll watch it with the kids or something." But
I mean, it's like universal that everyone was saying it was terrible. Everyone thought it was going to be terrible. So yeah, like it's pretty weird. It's a very weird situation that I actually enjoy it. But there you go. I thought it was freaking crazy. I couldn't believe it. Like everything that I read about it, ever since it was shown at the Cannes Film Festival, people tore it apart. And there was 3 reasons why people tore it apart, and all those 3 reasons is I didn't see at all. I mean, really? I could see one of them with the ending. Okay, could see that. The ending is so crazy that some people might be put off by that. For me, I was very excited by it because it incorporates Mads Mikkelsen and stuff. So I thought it was incredible. Like he makes
Mads Mikkelsen. Just to be clear, that he's another fan favorite for you.
I don't think have I seen a movie with him in it? I mean, I'm not a big I don't know many movies with him in it. I haven't played Death Stranding either.
Right.
He makes all those scenes at the end when it goes crazy, but I could understand people thinking maybe it's too crazy. For me, it was like maximum excitement. I couldn't believe they were doing it, and I was just awesome. This is awesome. But I could see people being like, nah, this is a little too much. Well, but apart from that, it was people were saying that Indiana Jones is old and washed up, and so it was like Luke from the new Star Wars, where it's oh god, they're doing this with the character. For me, I didn't get that at all. He was like a superhero in the movie. At the beginning, he is like old guy yelling at his neighbors, but after that, he's like a superhero. So I couldn't understand that. Yeah. And then people really hate the female lead as well, saying that she was super annoying, and the whole movie is him being like stomped on by this girl who's basically the new Indiana Jones. And that's not true either from my perspective. Like the movie shows her to be like a villain. She's basically a comedic villain that doesn't come around till the end of the movie. And Harrison Ford, Indiana Jones hates her in the movie for most of it. It's just like, I thought it worked. I don't know what people were talking about because it was the opposite when I saw it with those 2 aspects with the 2 leads. I thought it was the opposite of what people are saying. He's like a superhero, and she fits a very specific sort of villainous role for most of the movie. And so, yeah, like I don't know what the heck people are talking about.
You rate this above Crystal Skull?
Crystal Skull, I barely remember anything about, and I remember just being like average movie when I saw it in theaters. I don't care about it. I care about the original 3. Right. Crystal Skull, I don't care about.
Yeah, I've heard some people who will say like Raiders is the only good indie film, but I'm not sure.
Some people don't like Temple of Doom, but
yeah, I think Temple of Doom's awesome. I liked the first one I watched was
I love Temple of Doom.
Was The Lost Ark, so that was pretty freaking good. Yeah. Temple of Doom was awesome. Yeah, I don't know. Crystal Skull. When I watched that, I was okay with it, but I like everything in that was okay. There was just a few low points in there.
Yeah, for me, it was just like, I just don't. I mean, I haven't seen it in a long time, so I can't speak accurately, but it was just like a middle of the road sort of thing for me. Not super hate, not really liked, just whatever. Yeah.
Okay, cool. And then you moved on and played some Jim Lee action beat 'em ups. Is that right?
Yeah, the Australian developed Jim Lee's Wildcats for Super Nintendo.
Okay, I totally missed that.
Pretty strong game. It shows you the work that Beam Software were putting into commissions, international commissions that weren't even being released outside of America. It's pretty crazy.
That's wild, actually. Yeah. I mean, it's not unusual for offshore development to happen, but
especially with there's hundreds of games on the NES and stuff that were developed in Japan and not released in Japan. But yeah, it's something like Wildcats on Super Nintendo is a little bit odd because it is quite high effort, and I think it was one of Beam's last console games. I could be wrong about that.
Yeah,
I don't know what they did on the 32-bit era.
I don't know either. I definitely think when it comes to console platforms and stuff like that, and I lack a lot of knowledge. Mainly, I've got like my very narrow focus on PC from like personal history and like
as
reading
it should
the magazines.
Be DOS game.
Heck yeah, and then from then on, it's just like I don't know. I tried to expand my horizons a bit, but you know, there's a lot of games to play.
Yeah, there's so many games.
Yeah.
The vastest gaming is on the computers. Like,
it is.
Looking at Super Nintendo and NES and stuff, that's very small compared to what's possible to explore on computers, or just DOS alone, for that matter.
Yeah. Yeah, so, all right, we caught up with today's stream, which I missed out on, so that's basically a personal catch-up for me. Thank you. For everybody else, I think... I don't know if I'm alone in this, but a lot of people probably, if they're anything like me, would wonder, like, okay, when did you start collecting the kind of games that you're kind of getting known for? Like, I mean, you're probably well known for, at this point, a lot of those PC-98 Japanese imports and
stuff,
the Taiwanese games. Like, you got a huge collection of that as well. Like, what sparked that? Was it something early on? Like, you found something in a shop somewhere? Like, or what? What happened?
Nothing. There's no specific niche interest. It's just I like games that are cool, and I never cared about like language barriers or anything, especially since I was always after sort of like action games and stuff. I mean, now it doesn't matter. Now I play like RPGs in Chinese. Well, it's better if I can get a walkthrough for specific niche things like that. But it doesn't matter. Like, it's just natural, just like exploring games and being into games from wherever. So like, I'm like, I know it's more common to just be like, okay, I'm like into NES games or whatever. But
yeah,
I've ever since I was really young, I guess I got obsessed with it's really just the internet that allowed it. Seeing databases of like every Super Nintendo game, or lists of PC games or DOS games and stuff, which have only gotten better over the years. But even back 15, 20 years ago even, was when I really started, probably. Like, it was really good even back then. And I just discovered so much stuff. Back then, now I know like most of the main stuff, but back then it was like discovering a new system. So I'm like, oh, the Japanese had their own thing during the DOS era, and they made thousands of games in that era. And I love games from this era and this type of stuff. So I just explore all of them. And I'm just like, oh, this is new action RPG. Oh, there's another sick action RPG I'm obsessed with. It's just everywhere. It just never ended. And then I started buying a few physical copies of whatever I could find, and that's really it. Anything from Sim Ant.
When did that happen? Like, when did you go, actually, I'm just going to buy a copy of this game? Like, what was the Genesis purchase?
If there's something where, if there's a game that it's really something that it always impressed me, or a game I really like, I would want to get a physical copy, or something that isn't dumped on the internet, like image, like to play the game in an emulator or anything. Like, that's the most incentive to want to get a physical copy. So it's just a combination, like stuff you really think is cool and you want it. You want to see the packaging, old games with the packaging.
So you don't remember when it started?
I mean, when I was like in grade 9 or so, I think I got a PS1 with a mod chip.
Right. And so about 5 years ago then?
A long time ago. And I was importing American RPGs that were, well, not American RPGs, Japanese, like JRPGs that were not coming out in PAL regions. We didn't get them in Australia. Yeah. So I had to import Legend of Mana was the big one. Valkyrie Profile. So that was kind of me getting a taste of sort of importing stuff. And then from there, I started buying Japanese import PC games, which I didn't know much about them back then, but I saw the new releases in like 2003 or whatever. And I'm like, that looks awesome. I got to get it. I think I've even got behind me here, I guess this one. This is the first Japanese PC game I imported. This was full price from Himeya Shop. Himeya Shop was Himeya Soft was a Japanese developer of PC games from like 1991 to like 1996 or something. Well, I guess they kept going. But then they actually opened up an import store for foreigners to buy games. So I bought this through Hermea Soft, which is hilarious.
I don't even know how to spell Hermea Soft, so I was going to Google it and bring up an image.
Himeya. They were a developer of games, but they made a lot of adult games as well on Japanese PCs.
See.
It's like half-half. They did half adult, half non-adult. Yeah, there's pictures there. There's like that top right one with the Terminators. That's Phobos on PC 98.
Ooh.
Yeah.
See, that looks so badass. This is the kind of thing, like, when I was a kid, if I could have seen that screenshot in one of the magazines I was reading, I would be all over that game, because it looks freaking badass. And like,
that's every Japanese PC 98 game is like that. It's completely art-driven market with like the technology never advanced. You never needed a better computer. It was always the same base specs, and it was all just art-driven. Like every game was the same looking art. Like, and there's Terminators, sci-fi. This is actually an 18+ game, but you have to play it about 6 hours before you get to the first nude scene.
I don't know if it's worth the investment.
This game's payoff. This game has a really awesome payoff. It goes crazy with just like action scenes and action scenes, as in just like seeing stills of pictures of people shooting and stuff.
Right.
But yeah, like there's a lot of cool Japanese adventure games. The Japanese adventure games were all of that style instead of point and click like we had in the West.
There's some pretty badass screens here. So like, I remember. Like,
that's a good screenshot there.
Watching late night TV, like as a kid, and like you would get the animes coming on.
The animes,
It's like, oh, this is freaking sweet. I did not couldn't always follow the plot, but I loved just the visuals and stuff like that. And then like, if I could have seen like a PC 88 game sitting on my desk, like, oh my god, I would have loved it. So I can see where you're coming from with like the interest. Like this is something we don't see a lot of games, like the way you described the way this plays. Western DOS games didn't really do that very much. So
it's very strange because the majority of Western DOS games were not like that, but there is a few instances where there's kind of a lot of similarities. Like the closest one that immediately comes to mind for a big release is Rise of the Dragon. Rise of the Dragon visually looks like these games, not with the anime characters, but with just like moving around and just the flat scenes, and even switching to action scenes every now and then, which some Japanese games did. But yeah, Rise of the Dragon. And Rise of the Dragon got released in Japan eventually, but yeah, there's not many.
I enjoyed Rise of the Dragon. It was very good.
I love that game.
So yeah, I think the problem I have with a lot of these sort of titles is like I don't have the hardware to run them. So like if I collect them, it's like how much a use am I going to get out of that?
I buy them and just play them in emulator anyway.
Yeah. Which is a
buy
good way
them for
to
the
do it.
box and
And you mentioned preservation as well. That's something you like if it's unpreserved. You would try and acquire it. Is that something you've been doing a lot of lately, or are you still?
I'm always doing that, and the majority of that is for indie games, like all the Japanese indie games released, like in the 90s and stuff. A lot of that's not dumped, so I've bought dozens and dozens of those. And
I know a few times I've heard you talk about like vending machine. Releases of like they're super rare because like maybe there's like 100 copies that were ever sold or something like that.
A couple of hundred copies of like certain indie games, but in Japan they had the vending machines and you could buy games through them.
That's really fascinating because it's almost it's practically unimaginable for me. I grew up in outback Australia. The vending machines were like Coke machines from like the 60s.
Vending machines super popular in Japan, I guess.
Yeah. So you've actually like successfully got backups of some of these games now?
Oh yeah, like because I play them all in emulator. So yeah, all those ones I bought, I streamed a bunch of them. They're always fun to explore all that stuff. I think there's only been one commercial boxed game where I had to dump it, and then I needed a Japanese guy to break the protection on it.
Oh my god.
And then I played it in emulator, and
that's actually totally awesome. That's really
took me
commendable.
A long time to find that game, but
holy crap. So I suppose you've still got some white whales out there, the games that you're looking for, you haven't been able to get your hands on.
That doesn't end, because knowing all these different countries with their different games, every country has its own like thing. Like when it comes to sort of like American shareware games, my most wanted is Dark Passages, this unknown DOS shareware game that there's a demo with 3 levels, but I want the full thing with 12 levels, and I've been trying to find the guy, and I've tried to I tried to contact him on Facebook, but
I've had similar experiences trying to track down like the person who actually made the game, because like the only copies available are the shareware they released in like the 90s or whatever, and it's like, how the heck am I supposed to get the full version of this bloody game? And half the time they didn't even finish making the game. So
that's
like,
true.
A few people I've reached out to, like, I just didn't, it's not done.
Like, same thing happened with me. So
oh my god, we've had bad luck on that front, but there's also some good stuff, like reaching out to developers and getting like a little bit more information and intel on stuff like Mad Dog Williams. Tried to track that down for so long for DOS. I've never saw a copy, so I just assumed at some point it mustn't exist. They must have not published it for DOS. And finally, I got the developers finally replied to me. I'd been trying to contact them for years. They finally replied and said, "Oh yeah, no, there was DOS copies. Absolutely, yes." I was like, okay, I guess I got to keep looking now.
Just checking their email for the first time in 5 years.
Yeah, I'm planning to reach out to them again and pick that conversation up again. But I had too much going on. Anyway, that's just it's weird to think about these people who like worked really hard on this thing. Like you've made a game, you know what it takes to actually get a game to a point where you're like, this is done and I can release it. And like, for me, I got another hurdle to get over, which is like, it's done, but I don't want to release it because I don't want people to critique it, or like, I have that personal level of anxiety that's just like, this is not something I want to put out there.
People are always going to critique a game. Like,
it's true.
With the thing I released, it's, if I make a game that's a completely original thing, I'd be way more open to critique than what I was with what I did release with that Waterworld thing, because it's just based on a gag that's part of pop culture, so it's so kind of defended by that. Like, it's like people wouldn't really not necessarily make that much fun of it, because it's like, what else would you expect when that's exactly how it looks like in The Simpsons?
It's perfect. Like,
I'm kind of shielded by that.
I look at it and I wonder, like, is there anything that you could have done to improve this? Like, really, you nailed it. Like,
just make it longer. But the thing is, when like, I think I made it too, like, well, maybe it's just the right length. It got to the point where I was desperate to finish it, because I'm like, this is too much work. I'm making this too long. Like, this is getting too out of control. So I had to stop it. I
really feel like you nailed the length, the feel of the gameplay, especially like putting the coins in the machine. It's such a good joke, and then you don't make that overstay its welcome. You're like, okay, and now here's the shortcut. Like, perfect. And I know you've already covered a lot of this ground, so I won't drag you through it if you don't want to talk about it. But
you can, whatever question about it you have.
I mean, you've got your VOD on your channel where you basically did like a full developer commentary on the whole game, right? Did you finish it on stream?
Yes. I did. I haven't played it since that day.
Right. So, okay, I do have a question, which has probably been asked, and you may have answered it already, but, like, at what point did you decide Alien Lord is a thing in Waterworld? Because it's such a good twist, and it's perfect turn, especially knowing a little bit of your history with gaming and stuff like that, but tell us a little bit about that.
Well, outside of, like, in-jokes with me just being obsessed with HR Giga and stuff, the joke is essentially, like, it's a video game that's technically from 1995, because that's when, well, technically from 1995, although in The Simpsons, I guess it was 1997 when the episode came out. But you could imagine, in a hypothetical sense, that the game in The Simpsons exists in 1995. And it's like the era where, like, you know, especially if there was a Japanese developer commissioned to do the licensed product, there's probably going to be like some kind of alien stage at the end, or some kind of Giga stage at the end that's like there just as an extra thing, especially if the movie or whatever doesn't have enough. Like, there's a Terminator 2 game on Super Nintendo where when you when you fight the T-1000, he turns into like a flame elemental, and he jumps around the screen. in the lava pit in the foundry, he turns into like a flame lord. It's hilarious. But
I haven't played that. That's hilarious. That's so funny. Yeah, I can see how you got there though, and like knowing a little bit of the history of like the inside sort of knowledge of like, okay, Japanese developers were commissioned to make a property-based game. They just take something they've already made and like, we'll just change the sprites and like that's basically the game, right? So I can imagine that being a good like, 1995 lore of like, yeah, they just ported this to Waterworld and just didn't do all the graphics at the end because nobody's going to get that far anyway, right? Like, something like that. But yeah, it was a very fun game. Very fun and challenging. So good job on it.
I'm happy to hear that. Yeah. I can imagine a lot of people thinking it's not fun, but still playing it just because of the gimmick value, perhaps, and the fact that there's a lot more content than what the normal person expects, I guess, is in it, especially with the secrets, which is probably what I'm most proud of in it. But I can understand people not finding it fun, but the people that do find it fun, I'm very happy to hear that. I've always said that the way the game turned out, and this wasn't planned, this is just how it ended up, because I'm like looking at the Simpsons. I'm looking at the one step from the Simpsons. I'm like, how do I make that a game? I'm like, okay, well, he takes one step. The screen doesn't scroll. So how about we make it so there's like 5 nodes in the screen where it's like 5 steps or whatever. And basically that means that the jumping would have to be a phase and the ducking is a phase and the shoot or punch is like a phase, so to speak. I'm saying phase because it ended up being like a Tiger handheld electronic LCD game.
Yeah.
With like doing one movement that does like an action for a certain amount of time and then that's it. So that's it's just like an elaborate LCD game is how I look at it.
I mean, it's well executed though. So, and it looks great. Like you did all the artwork, right? In the game.
But based on the I originally it's quite low res, the game, but it is like I took the Kevin Costner and the cabinet and the background from what you see in The Simpsons, and I traced over it with pixels to get all the pixel art. So I traced over it, and then it was quite messy, so I had to go and clean up all the pixel art to make it all clean line art and stuff. And then I traced each of the 8 frames of animation of the step that he takes in The Simpsons. So he takes one step in The Simpsons, so I had to recreate that step. Everything else, though, from that point on had to be my own art because that's all you see in The Simpsons. So
how deep did you plumb the depths of the atoll to find out what to put in next?
Every video of the atoll I watched while making that game. Every video. I became an expert of Waterworld. And it's very much a passion game for Waterworld more so than The Simpsons. It's like, I said this recently, I feel like it's at least like 95% Waterworld enthusiasm and 5% Simpsons.
Yeah. So I actually think that comes through, especially I played the game. I'd seen the joke many times. I played the game. I went back and I rewatched it, and I rewatched the whole movie. And I was just like, oh, I actually could see, like, you paid a hell of a lot of attention to what was on the screen, which was really cool to see that. And obviously you had some sources to go through with
like just being fueled by the Atoll's videos on YouTube, the guy that does all the all the information. For anyone that might not know, there's a guy on YouTube that makes fan videos based on Waterworld and goes into incredible detail, and it's very well produced. Just seeing those, I only ever watched the movie one time, but I feel like I might have watched the movie about 50 more times after that, just through the clips of the Atoll constantly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just brought up the Atoll channel and it started playing music. Like, oh, no. Yeah, exactly. Oh man, the intro is really nice. Actually, it's good. He's done a good job. I've personally watched a bunch of these videos now because of you.
Yeah, it's easy to get, like, his videos are so high quality. It's easy to get absorbed into them. Yeah, it's very like comforting. Just
it is
harmless subject matter to watch that's interesting. So,
and he's obviously like a pretty big fan of Waterworld, and
Yeah, he's a
that
big
comes
fan of
through.
Waterworld, and he's talented at like video editing and
Mm-hmm.
animation and stuff. So
Yes, he is.
mm,
That's one thing I noticed as well. Like all of his videos very well edited, and like
mm,
seems to know what he's doing there too. It's
mm.
I find it easy to, and if somebody's really passionate about something and they can talk well about it, it's so easy to just sit there and listen and
Yeah,
like put
and
it on
it's
the
almost
background.
like a self-perpetuating meme, almost like it's a meme, but it's a good meme. The fact that you're making so many videos and you're getting so much mileage out of a single movie that everyone forgot about, and there's just video after video, and there's all interesting subjects, and it's simultaneously funny, and I think he understands the humor of that angle, but
Mm-hmm.
at the same time, the sheer interest value and authenticity of the passion and
Mm.
everything is legitimately like good as well. So there's two sides to it. It is legitimately funny, but also legitimately interesting.
Yeah, yeah. So, we sort of skipped a lot of questions that I could have asked, and I think it's a good time to start asking them now.
Yeah.
Going back to focusing on you a bit more and your Twitch channel, you started streaming how long ago?
I did a few streams just for fun on Ustream like
Wow,
15 years ago.
that's a long time. That's a lot longer than I imagined, actually. Wow.
When was
What
that?
did
When
you
was
stream on
you?
Ustream?
I remember I
Same sort of stuff.
streamed a couple of PC-88 games,
Wow.
and I had one viewer, which was just Dunjero, who is an old friend of mine who is from France, and I knew him through the PC-98
Hmm.
fans community. Fullmotionvideo.free.fr, I think was the link. It probably still is the link. He's
Wow.
still around. His name is Left Empty now. Say hello to Left Empty. Uh, he's still around. But yeah, that was the original um, Ustream days, and then it was maybe some years after that I did a few fun Twitch things. I think I first streamed on Twitch about 9 years ago. There you go,
Mm.
Takagawa Corp. That's the main site that would have taught me about PC-98 back in a
Wow.
long time ago, 2004 or something. I don't know, but yeah, like what was I saying?
Sorry, I distracted you with the website. You're just talking
Good
about
website.
streaming where your
Oh
earliest
yeah,
days. So
9 years ago would have been Twitch.
okay.
Yeah, and that was just for fun.
Hmm.
I didn't really. I never expected to like make money or anything off of Twitch. It just sort of happened naturally. I was streaming for about 3 or 4 years before there was any monetization, and there was heaps of people saying, "Why do you monetize? Now you're at like 100 viewers all the time. You should monetize." And then like eventually they gave. Still didn't monetize. It was like 4 years or something. And then I got Partner, and I'm like, okay, well now you can sub. I still didn't have a donation or anything.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Wow.
It all just came naturally, and
It
it's what I
snowballed a bit
focus
for you
on now.
then.
So
That's really cool. That's a cool story that you like started out just like, oh, I'll just try this out for fun.
yeah, well, I think
Yeah.
doing it for fun is very important, because if you set out to stream for the sole purpose of making money, then you're going to be in the middle of the stream feeling annoyed that you've made like no money, and that's terrible.
Hmm.
Because then there's expectations to survive.
Yes.
And I mean, even for me, as big as I am, you can go like hours without making any money, so you can't think about the money. You
No,
can't. You
yeah.
just have to have fun. You have to have fun streaming playing games and showing people stuff.
Imagine like trying to make a living just starting out. Like I'm just gonna start streaming today to make a living. It's just like a huge step.
Well, yeah, I feel
Uh,
like there would be a lot of maybe young people with like, I don't know, new games like Fortnite stuff that would try to want to get
mhm.
into it. And yeah, you just have to be a little bit smart about it in that
Yeah.
case. It's even harder if you're streaming new games like that to stick out from the crowd. Like,
Hmm.
how do you stream Fortnite or just be a variety streamer of AAA games and not just have one viewer in the list of 10 million people streaming
Yeah.
it?
I mean, the same goes for just chatting, another huge category that's just like
Yeah.
good luck getting noticed as well, right? But like, I mean, for me, my first stream was I got to press the right button here. Yeah, for my first stream, I just had no camera, no microphone, and I just had the game. That was it. I was just like, I'm gonna play the Dig because I want to play the Dig, and I'm gonna stream it because you got nothing better to do.
Just sort of stream the Dig. It's good.
Why not?
That has to be. It has to. Yeah, just have to want to play games.
Yeah.
That are interesting to you, and you want to see maybe other people come in and be like, "Oh, that's cool."
Yeah, and that's kind of what happened. Like, I think I really had to add the microphone before people would really want to hang around, which I kind of knew that, but I was like very nervous about streaming.
Yeah, you don't need a camera, but microphone is important if you want an audience, because otherwise there's nothing to connect to.
So if somebody out there is like, okay, I decided I would like to start streaming, and let's just assume that they want to stream retro, what's your recommendation to, like, hey, this is how I would get started today if I was starting out right now?
Just whatever you're into. If you're into something and you're passionate about it, just do it. I've seen a lot of really awesome streamers come and go that are interested in very specific niche things, but most of them don't stick around. There was a guy, probably no one else knows this guy. I think his name was literally like, it was something along the lines of like DOS RPGs, twitch.tv/DOS RPGs. And it was just some guy who was just playing DOS RPGs. He had a mic and everything, and it was awesome. But he was only around for like 2 months, and then he disappeared. There's so many instances like that.
I'm like, as long as try this, DOS, no, it's not there.
Yeah, it was something along those lines. Yeah. I don't know if it's probably still in my follow list.
If anyone knows it, just drop a link in the chat and I'll open it.
I remember, I think it was Captain Clever that hosted him, and I followed him. But yeah, tons of people like that. As long as he had fun doing it for those 2 months, that's great. But yeah, definitely like a lot of people where they come and go, and you wish they were always around, but obviously everyone's got their own circumstances.
People have actual lives and bills to pay, and things like that.
Or maybe he even realized, that specific guy, maybe he was like, you know what, I have more fun playing DOS RPGs by myself in the middle of the night. I don't need to stream it, which is legitimate as well. So.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, for sure. I mean, like, for me, going from not streaming to streaming was like almost forced, because I had nothing else to do. Like, at that one particular moment in time with the pandemic and the lockdowns, and like then we had curfews on top of that. It was like, okay, now I'm not even allowed to leave the house at this time of night, so I guess I will stream. That's how it started. I mean, a little different story to you, where like I thought about it for many years. I even made a YouTube video, but never published it, because the same reason as I never published the games. And I have actually re-edited and released that video now too, so it's on my channel.
That's cool.
Yeah, I got over it a little bit more, so now it's just a matter of time, finding the right time to get the game dev done and released. But yeah.
What are you working on? I'm curious.
Well, I have a couple of
games.
I
know you were making the Duke Donuts shmup for a while,
I
right?
was making the Duke Donuts shmup, yeah. I still want to do that, but it's a huge freaking project, because the whole joke of that was Duke Donuts said, like, just make a shmup mic, it's so easy. And I'm like, yeah, it is so easy. And I was like, I could make it really hard though. So I just I write the engine from scratch, and I'll do all of the graphics from scratch and all the sound from scratch. Like, there's no code, nothing to start from, and just build it entirely from scratch. All on stream too, so I wasn't doing any work offline. So yeah, I made it hard because I thought it would be funny. And it was funny, and like the engine's pretty much there. It's like it's almost good enough. I was actually more working on the map editor than the game.
That's the problem with making something, especially like that, like a shmup. Like, you could, in theory, make a shmup in one day. That's just move left and right like Space Invaders, shoot one bullet, boom, done. And there's like one enemy type, but then you want to add more. You want to, well, what if there's backgrounds?
Oh yeah.
But what if there's bosses? How big are the bosses gonna be? And then you start trying to
combine with this guy, and then what happens then? Like, oh, you know.
Yeah, like there's possibilities.
Yep.
You just want to keep going.
It's true, but making a shmup is like technically not that difficult. Like these days, like you get
on a surface level. I guess a lot of genres are like that.
Yeah, you made multimedia fusion, or what did you use?
Click Team Fusion. I've used
Team
Fusion ever since I was a kid with Click and Play.
Yeah.
I made Click and Play games. I made Fusion games. With Fusion, Multimedia Fusion was the first game I did that had all my own artwork and stuff, all my own pixel art. This was when I was like 13. And then from that point on, I would just always do mock-ups. I'd do like a million mock-ups of cool-looking city builders and stuff. I've shown some of them on stream. I did like these fantasy city builders where you have to defend your castle and stuff.
Right.
But they were never functional beyond just like building 5 buildings and that's it. And looking back at them now, it's like that was such a simple design. I could have finished that in like a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
But it's really just until,
I remember, I think I saw you showing some screens, or did you actually show gameplay for any of this stuff?
Yeah, like just whatever was in the files. Like they were all in various states of gameplay. With you could build 2 buildings, 5 buildings. I was always doing city builders.
I mean, that's pretty cool. And it has some synergies with the thing that I'm working on. I haven't announced what I'm working on right now, but I'll spill the beans a little bit. It is like not a city builder, but it is like has some synergies with that concept of like placing things in the world and having it have some effect on the world. So it's more of a I don't know how much I should say, because if I put it out there, then I don't do it, then everybody's gonna be like, "When's this coming along?" And I'll be like, "I stopped doing it." Like, so I don't want to say too much, but I guess I will.
So you never announce games.
That's
you
right.
Never announce anything, and then you unleash it.
Yeah, that's what I should do. So anyway, it's I'm still not sure if I'll talk about it. Actually, I guess I will. Just everybody else stop listening, and McCall and I are just gonna have a chat. So the game concept is, I'll try and boil it down really simply. It's Lovecraftian. You've inherited a house, and there's something weird in the cellar. You go in there, like, you don't, like, this is all story, not gameplay. The gameplay is very simple. There's like a 5x5 tile grid, or actually starts out like maybe a 3x5 tile grid. You place some stuff in there that you found in the cellar, like alchemy equipment, and generate some resources, and then you can use those resources to unlock some more tiles and clean up more of the basement, more of the cellar.
That sounds cool.
And yeah, it expands to like a 9x9 grid or something like that. But you've got to balance all of the different powers and stuff like that from the occult powers. So like alchemy will generate like gold, but it releases miasma into the room, and so you have to deal with that somehow. And so you might put some like candles next to it, and so it's like got that sort of imagining the way you put a police station in SimCity, and it lowers crime in that area, and so you can charge more for taxes then, and people will pay them because they've got police, that kind of thing.
And the release date's going to be August 2024 for a retail price of $15 USD on Steam. Everyone get ready.
Yeah.
And there's going to be gigantic Cthulhu bosses that attack you with exquisite pixel art.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what we're doing. So yeah, you nailed it. But anyway, that's the concept. That's a really like rough overview of the concept. I haven't even done any code for it yet. I've literally been writing documents and spreadsheets of like
I started a Cthulhu game myself at one point, a Lovecraftian game. Didn't get very far, but it was a adventure horror suspense platformer, and I was using the look of a Super Nintendo game called SOS, aka Septentrion, to define the look. Because the look of that game is like perfect for a 2D Cthulhu thing. But yeah, I didn't get too far, but I had it all planned out.
Yeah.
I don't think I'll ever finish that game.
You should. Well, maybe not. I don't know. Like there's so many, like the world of making games is like grown so broad, and like you can almost do whatever you want. I mean,
it's a lot easier to make stuff now.
Yeah, it is. It is a lot easier
with all the tools. I mean, just look at Trepang 2 that came out recently, that FPS, that was made by Four Guys. Four Guys, and it looks like a AAA FPS. And the reason for that is because they're using libraries, they're using stock assets, they're using all kinds of different things, but Four Guys, and it looks like a AAA FPS.
Yeah. Yeah, it's totally doable these days. Like, not just FPS, though, as well. Like, FPS seems to be, like, the easiest thing to go for, because, like, you basically have half the game made for you as soon as you open, like, Unreal or Unity. So,
yeah, like, if you're using an existing engine, that's all the hard stuff done.
Yeah.
That's why I mentioned this around the time when I released the Waterworld game, but almost every single 2D thing on Steam is either Unity or Fusion, which is what I used, or Game Maker.
Yeah.
There's so little reason to make something from an engine from scratch that it's just, why would people bother? Especially since the people that would be motivated to make something like that would be creative types that don't want to learn a programming language.
Yeah.
And like trying to hire a programmer just to do a engine for a 2D platformer is like the biggest waste of money, because they could make 1,000,000 times more money just at some company doing whatever IT work. So
yeah. Yeah, it's true. I mean, I love programming engines. Like, that's the one thing that I've been doing since I was like 10 years old. Like, whenever I wanted to make a game, I'd be like, I'm going to make a cool engine for this game. Like, I love that stuff. So
the whole era of Doom and stuff, where everyone was doing their own engine and trying to one up each other.
Yeah. And there's some weird ones that came out like a little bit too late, but they still hit the mark. Like, they still got their game out, but like, you know, it's like Quake era or later, but they're releasing like Duke Nukem era sort of engine tech. It's like, oh
yeah, the same goes for Wolfenstein. When you know, Capstone was putting out, Capstone was always like 3 years behind id.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, Quake's released, so we've got William Shatner's Tech War.
That's a real sore point. Tech War's a sore point now. I don't know if you heard, but I tried to buy a copy of it on stream.
Oh no.
And put the
with
order
William
in.
Shatner's face staring at you on the cover art.
Oh my gosh! I mean, I've got the shareware, like the demo of it, but like I just wanted the full box to go with my other Capstone boxes, and it just like the guy didn't send it, and eventually I'm like, what's going on? No, he didn't send it, and so I sent him a message like, hey, I haven't got this yet, and he's like, oh yeah, sorry, it got returned, the label came off. I'm like, okay. So can you send it again? He's like, yeah, I'll send it again, and so I got a new tracking number. He's like, I've sent it, can you please close the ticket, like close the request? Like, yeah, this is a little bit scammy feeling, so I'm just gonna leave it open. And eventually I got a refund for it, so I don't know, like it must have been a scam, but it was a legitimate looking scam.
Those blasted sellers trying to scam people out of Tech War. The Tech War fund,
the big Tech War money out there.
Isn't it an expensive game? I don't even know.
It's
like,
is it? It shouldn't be. It's not that bad, but like just getting the box, like it's not availability is more of a problem, right? So when it does come up, it's not always a good price.
I would imagine
that one was a good price though, so I was like, oh, I'll get this one.
I'd imagine something like Witch Haven maybe fetches high prices.
I don't know. I got mine.
Or does William Shatner really pull the money in for?
I think he might.
Yeah.
I think there might be some hardcore Trekkies out there who are like, oh wait, what are they called now? Trekkers? Trekkers?
Trekkers.
There's some hardcore trekkers out there who are probably loving it. I don't know. There might not be, but yeah. So you've actually got a bit of a history of like tinkering with your own games too, and I know you've already done streams on some of it, but like, what's a standout one that you're like, I'm going to go back and do it? Like, I'm finished in this one. Is there any? I mean, you said they were mostly city builders, but there's a market for that.
I don't think I'm gonna do a city builder soon, but okay. I mean, I've mentioned this before. There is a certain sanctified project from exactly 11 years ago now, which we'll see what happens with that.
Okay.
That's all I can say.
That's just like, that's it. Okay. All right. I wonder what it is. I'm trying to think if you haven't shown any of this before, or
no.
Okay, so
like, I dare not say anything, like not even mention details until something could be potential, because otherwise I'll just disappoint people. So.
Yeah. I just did. This game's never coming out, and people are going to be so disappointed. It's
coming out August next year.
Yeah. It's got a release date and everything.
Yeah.
What date did you say? August? Did you give it a date or just August?
August 2024.
August 2024.
And
okay.
Screen size Cthulhu that attacks you.
Oh, I don't know. Cthulhu's a bit mundane these days. We have to do something a little different.
You played Dark Corners of the Earth sort of recently, didn't you?
Yeah, I started playing it on my XP machine, but it's not The XP machine that I've got here, it's got an FX 5500 in it, which is powerful enough to play the game, but it's on a PCI bus. It's not on a AGP bus.
Yeah.
So I'm building a new machine that will be able to play it better. But basically, frame rate was like piece of crap. It was like 12 frames per second, something like that. So
that game's been bust. Like, I've got the GOG version now. I think they might have finally fixed it in the last like 4 years or something.
Yeah.
But there was like a 10-year gap where that game was busted. I tried to run it on so many different systems, but from a certain era of video cards onwards, it would always suddenly like just crash when you're going down into the first basement or whatever.
Yeah.
And it was
it's
a
been
known
fine
problem.
on GOG for a while now, yeah.
Yeah. So
I streamed it on GOG, and I don't know if I streamed it on my channel on the GOG version or not, but I streamed it on GOG and it was fine. The only thing is, like, there's still a problem that hasn't been fixed, and that is at the end of the game.
Oh, the rocks?
Yeah.
Yeah, I played it on release, and that was the broken thing on release.
Yeah.
I never finished the game because of that.
Your computer was too fast, basically.
Yeah, like it just didn't work. Like they never. I mean, there's the whole story with that. They made the Xbox version, and then the PC version was rushed because the company was. It was like one guy that did the PC version at the last second, just to get it out there. So I'm happy that it's out there. But
yeah, I feel really bad for that team, like Human Head, I think they were called, and they were like basically like a father-son crew. Like build the company to like make this. This was their game that they were going to make, and they got the license for Call of Cthulhu, and they're like, yeah, let's do this. And they worked really hard on it. And they were putting out so much good media. Like, I don't know if you remember when they were like pre-launch, they were doing all this stuff, releasing concept art.
Yeah, I was like really hyped for that game. I was like the era around the same time as like Fear coming out and stuff, where I was playing all the new FPSs coming out.
It was such a good era for that kind of game too, and like
after Doom 3,
perfect time for it, because there was a lot of people like it seems like in the indie space, Cthulhu's been kind of a mainstay for a long time now, but back then it was kind of a really fresh sort of
it was like
idea.
There's a couple of French games, right? Shadow of the Comet, and there was one other one,
Alone in the Dark, Shadow of the Comet,
and there was an old Australian one from the
Ice.
80s. What's it called? Arkham Manor or whatever. It's like on the Spectrum or something.
Oh, Arkham Manor. Yeah. I don't think I played it, but I heard of it, yeah.
Yeah, like that was one. I think it was Melbourne House or something that did it. That was like the 80s.
You think it was a Spectrum game?
It was Spectrum and maybe Amstrad, maybe.
Might have been Amstrad.
Commodore 64.
I remember seeing a better, like, not Spectrum graphics. I remember seeing screenshots.
Maybe Commodore 64.
The Mystery of Arkham Manor.
Yeah, it actually looks kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Put this back.
See if there's a CPC version too. Yeah.
I wonder if were there even CPCs that prevalent in Australia at the time. I wonder.
Well, that was my first PC.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, again, I was in the Outback, so we were behind a couple of generations maybe, but like, so my first gaming machine was a 2600, which was like already old by the time we old by the time we got it. And my dad traded stuff. He was like always into trading things, you know. So he would come home with all kinds of stuff like cars, motorbikes, and 2600s apparently. So yeah, he brought that home. And then the Amstrad came a bit later because like my parents realized like, oh, computers are a thing.
There's a lot of awesome French games on the Amstrad. I can say that.
There are. So yeah, this looks. It's like they only have like a couple of screens.
1987. They were doing really like Melbourne House at that time they were like AAA levels for that era of gaming when they did all the adventure games and stuff they did.
Mm-hmm. Melbourne House released a lot of cool stuff. Like there's a lot of good Australian games that like I don't know if they didn't get as broad a release or didn't get as much attention as like it feels like they should have. Like I still think it's free on GOG right now, but like Flight of the Amazon Queen is so good.
Steve Stamatiadis Gaming.
Yeah, and John Passfield. And like John Passfield created Halloween Harry on the Australian version of the BBC Micro.
Yeah, what is it called? The Auric or something?
Acorn,
what was it called?
Acorn, Micro B.
Micro B, yeah.
Yeah.
That's right.
And so he created Halloween Harry, and he created Flight of the Amazon Queen, and like worked with Steve on that. And it's like it's such a cool game, and I don't know why that isn't more popular. Like, and
I actually played the Amazon Queen.
Yeah,
I still need to play it. It looks cool. I've seen some people stream it.
Yeah, it's quite good.
Seems highly regarded.
It's quite good. It's quite a good game. Anyway, I won't belabor that. But yeah, it's like there's a lot of good Australian devs, and there's also like the Warlords 2, Warlords 2
SSG.
Guys. Yeah, SSG.
Yeah, those guys. One of them was from like New Zealand, and the other one was Australian, and they were in America working for Avalon Hill. I think the story goes, right?
Yeah, something.
And then
like
they came back to Australia and they made Reach for the Stars, and then Warlords after that, and Warlords went up until like Warlords 4 in like 2002 or something, right? Because there was all the Warlords Battle Cry games. It was like Warlords 1, 2, and then 3 was way later, and then 4 was way later. And in between 3 and 4, there was all the Battle Cries.
Yeah, I don't remember 3 and 4, but that's probably just because, I don't know, maybe I just wasn't paying attention to that particular segment of the market at the time. But yeah.
3 was the one I played the most.
Okay. Yeah, so like there's them, there's like, yeah, there's a ton of Aussie devs. I feel like, so Manacom is a thing that I've like, in the last probably year or so, I've gotten more into trying to find Manacom like paraphernalia and like details and stuff like that, because they did publish a hell of a lot of stuff that's like, they're the only, like globally, the only place that published it was Manacom, like in a box that went retail, which is weird, but a lot of stuff, like, especially in the shareware days, because getting shareware distribution to Australia was prohibitively expensive, but people could still make money getting distribution from them. So, yeah, I don't know. Anyway, that's a whole other tangent. We don't have to go down that route.
Australian developer tangent.
Yeah.
Which is an apocalypse now. Now it's just indie devs. But
yeah. Yeah, I mean, like, Unpacking, that's another Australian game, right? That's a recent one.
Like Hollow Knight and stuff was Australian, but they're all indie devs. In terms of companies that exist outside of the mobile space,
I think there's a couple of, like, isn't there an MMO dev or something that's like still going pretty good?
I don't know. I know that what is it? Like Steve Stamatiadis is still around. I think they're doing the 4th the Tasmanian Tiger.
Yeah.
But I have no idea how they're making that, or if they're basically an indie team now, because I mean Chrome has been shut down for ages.
He actually streams sometimes. Like he'll do
I've seen a few of the streams, so
go hang out there occasionally. There was also, like, we used to do, a lot of devs in Australia would do the movie tie-in games, right? But like that's kind of like not.
Yeah, Chrome did the King Arthur game in like 2004 or something.
Yeah, Chrome. Are they still around?
No, they're gone a long time ago when they released that MMO that was 2010.
Maybe that's who I was thinking of actually.
They got taken out by that MMO. They shouldn't have made that MMO. Yeah. And
there was also well, you're right. It's mostly indies. It's mostly indies these days. Like the arcade in Melbourne got closed down last year, I think it was. They're still running like some of their programs, but like it's not the same. It's not the same anymore.
Has to be all indie devs these days. I mean, that's the majority of games coming out from all around the world is indie. But it would have been cool if we became like Poland out of nowhere and became just nothing but AAA developers. But
yeah, that would be cool. Or like France and just release some really weird and awesome games.
Yeah.
Sorry, I need some water.
That's probably a good idea. There's actually an interesting story in terms of Australian games. One of my friends, he was always asking me, because he knows I know tons about like all these games. He's like, what's the name of this? I was playing a strategy game when I was a kid, and it's kind of like 2D pixel art, and there's like knights and sort of like English knights strategy game. I'm like, Defender of the Crown. And he's like, no, it's like more obscure, and it was like in the mid 90s, and there's like a tournament where you can hire people and stuff. And I'm like,
okay,
King Arthur's Court?
Yeah.
Like King Arthur's Court is like a shareware game on DOS that's pretty known. It's like a strategy game. And he's like, I'll look it up. And he looked it up and there was nothing. It was like, he's like, no, that's not it. And I'm like, okay, I know for a fact that I know all the DOS strategy.
Every single one of them. Right.
All the DOS strategy games where it's like British looking knights, European knights in like a Lords of the Realm style gameplay thing. He said it wasn't Lords of the Realm either. So I'm like, what could it be? He's got to, and I'm like, these are old memories. Maybe he's just like forgetting and it really is King Arthur's Court or whatever.
Yeah, it could be.
And then I remembered a game which I have played and I've streamed, and I can't remember the name now. It's like, what is it called? Like, not Conquered Kingdoms. Conquered Kingdoms is like a different game that was made in America. There's like this other game that's all pixel art, and you swear it's a shareware game, but it's like a commercially released box game from like 1994. I can't remember the name of it. It's something generic like King. The only way I know about it is like, well, I know the box is the Russians. The Russians have like a scan of the box.
Of course they
do.
And
the box has like an Australian rating thing on it. It was only released in Australia.
Oh, okay.
And I'm like, there's no way that this dude, my friend, played this game that's so obscure.
Yeah.
And I asked him and he's like, that's the game.
Holy crap.
That's the game. He's like, I bought that in Toowoomba or something. And I'm like the only person that bought it. I'm trying to remember the name so we could like look it up, but well, I remember looking it up on Moby Games. It's on Moby Games, and the guy that did all the pixel art and did the game design, he was like a lead designer on Halo 3 or something.
Oh man,
he like went to America. Maybe it's better to go to Moby Games and look up the chief whatever on Halo 3.
Yeah, okay, I'm doing that now.
What's the name of this damn game? And the only box scan, I've tried to look for a copy. I can't find a copy on eBay Australia. And the only box scan is on the Russian site. And yeah, it's, I don't know. It was very strange. Very strange.
There's too many leads. Director on it?
Yeah, I remember there was like all these leads, but he's like director or something, creative something. He's one of the leads.
One of the leads. Okay.
Martin O'Donnell. It could be him if you... I need to find this game.
We're trying to work out what it's called, and I don't know, like, because I have no idea what you're talking about, to be clear. Like, yeah, no.
If I go to the Russian site and I look up King Arthur's Court, do they have a hot link to the other? Oh no, they don't. Because it's really similar looking to King Arthur's Court. If I look up Kingdom, okay, date. Does it have the word Kingdom in the title?
This is good.
King.
I love looking up weird.
Kingdom at War.
Kingdom at War. Okay, I can Google that.
Kingdom at War. That's the game.
Kingdom at War. Not Throne Kingdom at War, though.
No, just Kingdom at War. It is really obscure. I'm looking at the cover art right now on the Russian site. It's got the Australian thing in the corner. And it's a pretty cool looking cover art, but I've never found a copy of this damn thing. But for some reason, my friend owned this, and he probably didn't realize just how rare, how obscure it was. Kingdom at War.
See if I can... Where's the freaking search functionality on this damn website? No, I don't think
there was a website. Yeah, Guybrush has a website to Kingdom at War on the Manacom.
Oh, thank you, Guybrush, legend.
There's a website. What, in 1995 or something? There's a website.
This is the kind of thing that I've been trying to track down, though, like weird Manacom releases that you only really see.
Maybe there's more that haven't been unearthed. Yeah, I don't know.
Man, this box art that they've got on the screenshot here is terrible.
Yes.
I went through that some of the Manacom DOS releases, they had like a digital catalog you could go through and see like these cover arts that like really badly digitized and like
2 pixel resolution cover art.
this cover art is not going to do any justice. That's hilarious.
That's probably where the Russians got their little thumbnail from as well.
Probably. Yeah.
But yeah, it's on like Moby Games. It's got really good pixel art. It's a pretty fun game. I played it a little bit. Just thought it was a interesting obscurity. The game must have sold like 200 copies. I can't imagine it's selling more than that.
Oh, this is definitely one of those ones you want to like dig up the box art and get like a decent scan of it.
Yeah, it's like
right.
non-existent on the internet properly.
This looks awesome, actually.
Oh, it's a cool game. Like the pixel art's really good. My friend said that he tried to contact the director of the game, the designer on the game, but he never got a response. I'm like, dude, he was the lead on Halo 3 apparently. Like he probably doesn't care about this anymore.
He might not care, but maybe he would, like, if you get the right time to talk to him. He could
exactly. Out. I mean, you'd have to imagine he would find it fascinating that someone even knows about this game. Like,
yeah.
And there's definitely a lot of effort put into it. It's very, I mean, it's very dated for the time it came out because by this point, you know, sort of like stuff that was pre-rendered, Lords of Realm 2 was starting to come in vogue.
Right.
But,
yeah.
So this game, stuff. I don't even think they would have sold this international. Like this thing's completely unknown. But it's aged quite well. It's aged well.
It has some really nice illustrations and artwork, but it reminds me of like Masters of Magic sort of style.
Yeah.
A little bit. Maybe a bit updated compared to that.
Halo 4 lead, apparently. Infinity Design.
There you go.
Or Halo 3.
So this Thomas Ip or Alex Shaw?
I have no idea.
Brad Welch.
I like to think that he presented on his resume like Kingdom at War, his old DOS pixel art thing, and they're like, "Oh man, that looks awesome! We're gonna hire you for the lead on Halo 4."
Yeah. It looks like Brad Welch. He worked on Halo 4. He was Infinity Design lead. Yeah, but these screenshots are just like really. It looks a lot better than I imagined from what your description. I was like, okay, yeah, it's gonna look something like this, but no, this is really nice looking. I definitely would have fallen for this game if I had it back then.
Be interesting just to see if a copy ever surfaces on eBay Australia. Does anyone still have a copy of this? What if they're all destroyed by now?
I mean, I'll do an eBay search right now for it. Yeah.
You should bookmark it or something because I keep forgetting. Yeah. I'm always wondering to myself, have I missed a copy of Kingdom at War?
Yeah. I mean, you probably did, right? Like, it's probably. I could imagine it's being sold. Some of the weird stuff that I like purchasing in bundles, like you're just like, oh, somebody's got a box of games they're selling on like Gumtree or something.
That's the thing. You'd find it more in like.
Yeah.
And this is the type of game where it would have zero value. Like no one would be looking at it, and no one that has it would know anything about it or what it's worth. It would be like a $2 thing.
Absolutely.
Like no value ever this game would ever have, unless there's a big YouTube video made on it. Kingdom at War, the forgotten DOS masterpiece.
Yeah. I mean, that could definitely happen. Like, it's happened before, right? Just people bringing attention to these games, and then it's like suddenly you can't find it anywhere. Hang on. Somebody has posted in chat that there's an eBay link here. Hang on, I gotta click on it. I'm trusting that this isn't going to be like a weird thing. Holy crap, that does look... It's the right title. Let's look at the screenshot. That's it.
Is that like a re-release box?
Yeah,
that's like a ghetto box.
This is a ghetto box. This is like a value release.
There's a value release of a game this obscure.
That is wild.
Unless the box cover that's on the Manacom site was fake and it was only released in this box, maybe.
It's possible that Manacom only released like a CD copy, but I find that doubtful.
I don't know.
I'm gonna go to eBay over here and just see if I can. So they won't ship to Australia.
I guess this weird whatever release this is did go international.
Yeah, they don't ship to Australia, so somebody else is gonna have to get it and send it to you. Somebody out there in the chat might be generous.
But the thing is, a release like this, if this really is like a re-release of the game and not the original release, it's very possible it probably doesn't even have a manual. It's just got like a loose CD in there or something.
Well, it's new and sealed, so whatever's in it, you'll definitely get that.
You won't get much.
You definitely get whatever's in there.
It'd be like that.
I bought sealed games because I'm like, I've never seen the contents of this box before. I've never seen cover art, so I just buy it, especially if it's cheap and it's sealed, like whatever. I open it up and I'm excited to see what's inside, and it's like a piece of paper and a CD. It's like, come on, this could have been awesome. That's why there's no screenshots, photos of what's inside the box, because there's nothing inside the box.
Yeah, it's like most of the time, if it's not a big publisher of a big name game, it's probably not much in the box.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes you get lucky with like some really cool pieces of paper and things like that. One publisher, indie publisher, is what's his name? William R something. He did Last Half of Darkness and Blue Romantic.
Oh yeah, that guy.
That guy. He always included like these like things inside the boxes. It's like really cool. Yeah, spiders and like dial. Like he'd use the CD as like a puzzle. You put it in the manual and you turn it to the right spot on the manual page. You can line up the thing. You go, that's the solution to this puzzle. Like, yeah,
that stuff's really cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. I mean, that era's kind of gone now because like everything's gone digital. So, but for a small time, for a small window, indies could like get a CD sent out to people and they could have all this fun with the manual and stuff like that.
Doesn't exist anymore. We've been in the digital age for a good 10, 15 years now.
Yeah.
Sadly. And even before that age, you would get garbage like what do you get? You just get like just a case.
Yeah, that's shit.
I don't care about this.
I have
sucks.
Too much crap like that. I had piles and piles of CD cases and DVD boxes just like that. It's like, God, I'm glad I got the game and it's physical, so I can like install it on a system and it'll just work. But damn.
Yeah, you don't care about the packaging at all.
Yeah, like then I'm just remembering stuff like my MechWarrior 2 Mercenaries box had all this nice stuff in it, and I kept the CD and the manual. It's like, and the box, I crushed it. Like, it's just gone. Why?
I'm lucky that I only had minimal casualties since I was a kid. I kept most of my boxes for stuff.
That's very fortunate. It's not that I didn't see the value in it. It's just like I was like too, I'm just going to say, inattentive to.
Yeah. I mean, you don't really care. Like at a certain time when you're less into the games and it's very casual, you sort of don't care. But then it kind of occurred to me at a certain point later on that it's actually easier to store when there's just a box lined up on a shelf and not a loose manual and a loose CD, which is so annoying to store. You can't store it. It's like bits and everywhere. So for the sake of like organization, keeping it in the box is easier than getting rid of the box.
Yeah.
So
I've got like a couple of CD binders from those days that I've kind of gone through and like emptied out now, but like reintroduced those discs to proper cases and stuff. But yeah, going through them, I'm like, why did I do this? It's like, it's not even convenient. Like, you still have to flick through this thing and like try and find it's annoying. Like, I
remember for a certain period, I had a pile like this of like manuals to games, like Caesar 2, Lords of the Realm 2, and I still had the boxes, and I'm like, this is so annoying, and I put them in the boxes, and I'm like, and then I lined the boxes up, and I'm like, that's so much easier.
It's suddenly convenient. Yep. It's true though. Like, and the other side of this is like the manufacturers also would just not see the value in their boxes. They just be like, it just needs a flimsy box, put it on the shelf to get it sold, and we don't care what happens after that. So you can see it from their point of view, unless they
except if you're Origin or Sierra.
Yeah.
Then...
Oh hell yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there are a lot of great boxes out there, like, don't get me wrong, but there's a lot of bad ones too that are like obviously not designed to last.
Unfortunately, not everyone could have all the production budget of the bigger companies.
That's true.
It really just comes down to that.
Yeah.
Or developers getting shafted by a publisher that just wants to take their thing and make money off it.
I feel like we've talked a lot about this stuff, and that's like a really good conversation that we can continue if you would like. But I wanted to ask a little bit about like your extracurriculars. Like, what are you doing outside of, like, when you're live on stream, you're doing a particular thing, but like, you know, research and other stuff you're doing offline. Like, I mean, obviously you spend a lot of time finding stuff, researching stuff, and like discovering things. So like, what's like a day offline look like when you're prepping for a stream?
Because
Because I'm
just like, that game looks good, I gotta stream that. And then I get the box cover on, I put in my layout, and I'm like, this is so sick.
Mm-hmm.
And then I like look up the developer or whatever. I'm like, this is really cool. I'm so excited. And then I stream it, and that's pretty much it. That's my life. That's
what happens. So it's just like you see the thing, you get excited about the thing, you prep it, and then you go live. Like that's
well, a lot of it, because it's already been. I mean, it's much rarer for me to come across new things these days. It still happens. Especially with the great work that certain people are doing, where they're finding crazy stuff that I would never have been able to find myself, especially the Russians with their finding of certain Spanish games and stuff, which the Spanish can't even find. But anyway, for the most part, in terms of like, say, Amiga game lists and DOS game lists, I know the bulk of everything, and I spend a lot of time sort of I very casually, when I'm watching streams or whatever, just as fun, I go through like the Hall of Light on Amiga, the Amiga database, and it's just so fun to me to keep. And like, I'm looking over the exact same stuff all the time. Like, these thousands of games, I've looked through these lists so many times that I know all the games. But even knowing the list or knowing what the games look like, you'll never fully. You can always go back and re-look at stuff that you've overlooked, and you realize how cool it is, or stuff that you've wanted to get to, because there's so many games, whether that's for just Amiga or DOS or God knows how many other systems. So I can always go through lists of games that I've seen hundreds of times before, but I'm still going through them and being like, oh, I have another look at that game because it's cool to me. And so a lot of that as well.
How much goes into the theme planning? Because you often will go through, like, I'm going to play a series of like religious games or something like that. So like for a week you're just going to be playing these like Bible games or something like that. Like, how much time do you, like, is it one game that sparks that and then you're just like, I'm going to find stuff around this, or how does that work?
It really all comes natural to me. I know so many of these games that I can just create the lists in my head without really having to do research. Like, I just know, like, this and this and this, that'll be so cool to all play together. It's like a theme, and that makes me excited to want to play it. And then it kind of happens naturally. Everything kind of happens naturally. I never find myself sitting down and being like, I need content to stream.
No,
and then I figure something out. Like, there's always 10,000 things that I need to stream, and it just happens naturally, which is comfortable and good.
Do you find it mood driven? Is like that's what drives the content?
Like, all over the place. Like, I don't know what controls it, but it's all just everything will affect it, really. All kinds of things.
So I feel like playing a beat 'em up, so you'll just find some beat 'em ups that you know are going to be fun, and then put them.
I mean, like even just playing Jim Lee's Wildcats today, I'm like, man, now I really want to revisit Death and Return of Superman, which is made by Blizzard on Super Nintendo. I'd like to play Capcom's Mutant Apocalypse X-Men game again, because that's so awesome. A lot of these are games I've played before, but I just want to play them again because they're so good. But then, of course, every now and then I'm like, I need to play something new, because when you play something new, it's always fun to discover with chat whether it's going to be garbage or really exciting.
So there's some games that you've probably been on your hit list for a while. You're like, when I play this, it's going to be either really awesome or like we're going to be shitting all over it, kind of thing, right?
Yeah, and it's like, like there's always like a million steps, like, in my head. Like, I'll never run out of things, because there's, even now in my head, I'm like, I really want to play. I want to sit down one day and I want to stream a cryo game. I've been thinking of it, cryo, a lot recently.
I saw you talking about that in your Ultimate Gaming News segment, which I gotta say, I love the Ultimate Gaming News segment. You need to do more of it.
I don't do it often enough.
But like cryo, you're right. They made so many games, and like many of them are amazing. Many of them.
Cryo is
the French developers doing, like, them and Infogrames was just like. There's probably more, but I'm just picking those two. Like,
that was they're very creative. Just right off the bat, there, just ever since the '80s, companies like Lancor and stuff, they were putting out all kinds of really interesting things that weren't just. They were like the opposite of games made or put out to like fill a certain market or criteria. It's more just like, this was cool for the developers to do artistically. How it does commercially, we don't know.
Yeah,
we're putting it out. But definitely cryo was the most sort of crazy one. Like Cryo they were the most popular one in France for a long period of time, but they were also the craziest. Like the people behind that company, like it's said that like Jodorowsky or whatever was like funding the company at the beginning, and the guy what is it, the main guy, Philippe Ulrich, you watch him talk, he's like out of control, like these real just like legendary French characters.
And they are characters too. Like they're not.
Yeah, they're like cartoon characters.
And
Steph, I don't know how you pronounce these French names, but Stéphane Pic, who did the music to like Dune and stuff, he's like, he was in there as well, but then he disappeared. He's like on an island now or something. It's all crazy stuff.
That's wild. Yeah. I mean, I'm every Cryo game I played has had something redeeming about it, even if I didn't really love the game in particular. Like there's been like really good artwork, or the music's awesome, or like had a really
the
cool
music
twist.
is always awesome in Cryo. One of the things about Cryo is that I think they might have been, well, they weren't the first French developer to release a video game soundtrack, but they were the most prolific. So of course Japan, with all the Japanese makers, they were doing that since the mid 80s. It became super popular to release game soundtracks for games, and Japan did it en masse. But outside of Japan, you had like Chris Hulsbeck in Germany that did like the Turrican and Apidia soundtracks early on. But in France, I think the first French video game soundtrack was for Future Wars.
And
then after that, when
Future
Cryo
soundtrack was good, I remember, like I played.
It's awesome. The CD
like 6
version
months ago or something, maybe. It was pretty awesome.
There's like an arranged soundtrack with all the CD tracks. It's really crazy. And then after that, when Cryo put out Dune 1, I think they basically released a soundtrack to almost every single game they released. Almost. There's these really obscure like releases in France and stuff. They actually put there's a CD soundtrack release for Dio Gratias, which people that watch me know that that's the memeiest of all the Cryo games, because it literally doesn't work. It's a box game. It just doesn't work. The game is not functional. It just doesn't. It's awesome. It's insane. It's like the God game that takes the God game concept to the stratosphere with how crazy it is. But there's a soundtrack to it. And there's a soundtrack to most Cryo games. They're all amazing.
Right. I do like... hang on.
And when I say soundtrack, of course, I mean a physical CD audio release.
Sorry, I got slightly distracted by an image posted in chat. You should open it.
Thank you, MP83.
There you go.
I look forward to seeing what's in the box.
Yeah, me too. I lost my train of thought, but that's okay. French developers. So I remember you played some Atari ST French games. One in particular was like this barbarian game.
Oh, yeah, Necron Aptor Quest.
That's it, Necron Aptor Quest. I was going to ask you what it was called so I could actually look it up and try it out, because it looked really fun. Did you like that game? It was very... I didn't see you finish it, so I didn't even know if it was finishable, but I remember at the time watching you were struggling with like a particular timing and sequence of events sort of thing.
It's like a combination. Well, the thing, like that game was in French, but it's a thing where like we could easily translate the French. There wasn't too much text. Like, it's not a language problem. It was just, moon logic. So trying to finish the game was a huge community effort. There was someone in my Discord that figured out how to get past the point that I was stuck on. And then we were able to finish it. But one of the interesting things about that, there's no box cover of this on the internet, by the way. There's only the advertisements.
Just the advertising. Like freaking Sky Roads. I still haven't been able to find any evidence of a box for that game.
I don't think it was released in a box, except for the Taiwanese release. But...
Well, that also looks like advertising to me. I couldn't figure out...
Oh, that's definitely released, guaranteed.
Definitely guaranteed?
I think yes. The thing with Taiwanese releases, I think that was Unalis that put that out.
Okay.
You could go a long time without ever seeing them boxed, but I always eventually see them boxed. Like that company definitely put that out, 100%.
That's awesome. Well,
like I've got that God of War, God of Thunder box release behind me here.
The God of Thunder release is so cool. I'm
like
jealous.
That's the same company.
Okay, yeah. I'll have to dig that one up at some point then as well, because damn, like it's so freaking cool looking. And also
Finamon with the big raid in chat.
The game's awesome. Phenomenon. Thank you so much for the raid. Yeah. Welcome, Raiders. Normally, I was thinking like, yeah, I could have sworn that there should have been a Skyroads box release because it's so prolific in like shareware, right? Like everybody had that on their computer. If they like, if you guess that somebody had a game on their DOS machine in like the mid '90s, it was going to be Skyroads and Commander Keen. Like everybody seemed to have those games. I'll just take a moment to say thanks again to Finn for the raid. Welcome in everybody coming in from Finn's stream. Welcome Raiders. Thank you, Finn. I hope you had an awesome stream. Playing some Dark Cloud 2 on the PS2. I'm here with McCall45 having a chat about just about anything. Specifically mostly to do with gaming and stuff like that. But we've talked a little bit of game dev, and we've also talked a bit about finding weird and wonderful retro. So yeah. Thank you for the follows as well. I appreciate that.
But getting back to Necron Aptor Quest, the thing about this game was that the French advertisement said that it was a combination of adventure and action, or adventure and arcade. They said arcade in the French media usually means action.
Right.
And when you were playing the game, it was like, is this real? Is there going to be an action scene that comes out eventually? Because the game itself is basically a complete clone of another French game. I don't think it was Cryo. Not Cryo that put it out. A game that was called like, it wasn't Ween, The Prophecy, or something like that. There's another one that's very similar to Ween. I don't know which is which, but basically Necron is a copy of that with the interface and everything. It might actually be a Cryo game. But then it turns out when we got to the very end of the game, there is indeed like a shmup sequence, which kind of looks like Mad Dog Williams when you're on the dragon.
Oh,
it's just kind of comes out of nowhere.
That. Here, this is the French. This is the French one here. Okay.
Yeah.
I found it. Yeah, I don't know. I don't speak French, but I can point my phone at it and read it.
Yeah, phone always helps.
So helpful living in the future. Give me a second here.
Atari ST exclusive. Was never released on anything else.
Yeah. Why are you not translating? Oh, there you go. Translated. Okay. This might be a different. Maybe it's the other ad.
Yeah, there's two ads.
This one says, a door opened in a violent tearing of space and time. You are Aptor, and for you, the horror begins now.
Yeah, it's the other ad with the big barbarian holding a sword up where it says combines arcade and
I really hope it's a bit too the text is like a little small. Alright. Necron is a scabrous mix of adventure and arcade that simmered in the secret pot of the 1632 edition programmers. Would you dare to taste the diabolical potion? That's a good ad.
Diabolical potion.
I would dare to taste the diabolical potion. Oh man,
Rat Clown Car with the raid.
Another raid here. Thank you, Rat Clown Car, for the raid. Welcome in. Oh man. And thank you for the bits as well. I have alerts turned off at the moment. I apologize. Yeah, and X-Men's posted in the chat while we're looking at the chat again. Skyroads box art. Somebody did do a mock-up of a Skyroads box art a while back, and it's fooled a lot of people into thinking it's an authentic cover because it's, it's a well-produced image. So, unfortunately, it's not the real thing.
I feel like a lot of the shareware games that got boxed versions, like a lot of them aren't even official, right? Like how many of those?
Like they're official, but not like official, yeah.
They're sort of really crappy budget sort of stuff.
The budget ones like BNN, which I started collecting every BNN box, but I kind of I've cooled off on that a bit because they're just people are selling them for like too much money for what they are, because they are like the shittiest budget release of a game that you could get. Like each box is one episode of the game, so if you wanted to buy, say, Duke Nukem, you would get Shrapnel City in one box, and then Moonbase, whatever it's called, in the other box, and then I forget what the last episode's called, but yeah, like you get each one in its own box, which is like annoying, but like, okay, if they're $20 a box, I'll buy them, whatever. But now people will sell like the one episode box for like $100. It's like,
yeah. I think it's just insane that they even got away with doing that back in the day. It's like, it should just be the one commercial release, like you're registering the game. It should just be one proper box. Like, were there really no publishers that wanted to do that back then?
Yeah. I don't know, like,
I know I've got a really crappy boxed version of Overkill, that shmup.
Yeah.
The epic mega game shmup. It's got like multiple different box designs.
Grab it.
Game.
I want to see it.
Yeah, where is it? Do I have it here?
I'm just going to try and grab mine, so I don't have you on mic. I can't hear you right now. So. Okay.
I think mine is definitely not in this room.
Sorry about that.
Mine, I think, is in a different room.
Okay. Well, maybe.
Which one do you have?
Maybe it looks like mine.
No, I've got a different one.
Yeah. So this one's like the Zoom software release. It turns out I think this is just a shareware release anyway. It's not even a full one.
In a box with the cover art, and it's just not even the full game.
I think so. Let me just double check. It's sealed, so I never bothered to open it and like find what was inside.
I mean, there's probably nothing inside it apart from like loose discs or something.
Yeah, I think so. I think I've seen photos of similar packages for other games like Duke Nukem and stuff like that with different contents, but it's like a floppy disk and a piece of paper or something.
Yeah. Yeah, mine's some other box cover, I remember.
Yeah, this is shareware. It says on the back. Yeah, it's marketed as shareware. Try the first fully functional and excellent adventure before deciding to buy the others. So, yeah. But still, the box art on this is awesome. Like, if you look at, like, it's pretty
that's
accurate representation.
This one's way more professional than the one I have. The one I have, I remember, is real ghetto.
Yeah, yours might be a B&N. I think B&N did a release of this as well.
Yeah.
And they have for the most part, really terrible cover art. The best cover art they've done is the one they did for One Must Fall, which is like a really good illustration of like actual bots from the game, which is like unusual for them. They normally just do crap, like horrible looking things.
It's just unrelated stuff.
Yeah, it's like really unrelated. Like, yeah.
Have you ever seen box cover arts to the Amiga ECP releases? Because ECP like brought over, they stuck their sticker on a lot of imports that they were bringing in, but their original Australian developed games have the funniest cover arts.
They just shoved this piece of paper in this ECP, shoved that in there.
Kyle Hodgetts.
Yeah.
I wonder what Kyle Hodgetts is doing now if he's not in prison, but yeah. The Amiga ECP stuff's hilarious.
Is there a story behind the prison comment, or is it just...
Oh, Kyle Hodgetts is an infamous character.
Okay, I'll leave it at that then.
he's a big time scammer, and
okay.
He's a big time scammer, but he's also been around the industry since the early '80s. He's one of the most interesting. He would be one of the most interesting Australian devs to talk about because he's in every single. He's been in every single era, and he's responsible for so many big Australian things. He's responsible for the most popular ticket redemption games that were ever in Australia. With the mouse bonking. I don't know how many Australians know the mouse bonking game and the aggro bonking game and all this stuff. Like, but he's also... He simultaneously had successes legitimately, but then he's also doing bootleg stuff on the side all the time. So he was always like a criminal, even when he was successful with proper stuff. It's insane. Like, his career is insane. He sold ECP to Electronic Arts. Like, it's crazy. Crazy.
Yeah. It is crazy. Like, that's the thing that gets me, like, looking into Manacom. Every time I look into Manacom, I always find something weird like associated with them, or like products that they put out. Like, it seemed like they were trying to get into like consumer electronics for a little while as well. Like, yeah, it was weird.
Yeah.
You can find like promotional material that they put out as well, like flash drives with like their logo on it, all that kind of stuff. Which I think that was a thing in like the early 2000s. Was like, giving away flash drives with your brand on it. It's like a business card type thing. I wish people still did that.
That'll be interesting.
They probably do, actually. I haven't been to like a
probably do. It's still a thing.
Or anything like that for a while. Key logo. So tell me something different, like non-gaming related. What's McCall do on his off time? Like going to the gym, hiking,
games,
cycling, just games.
Food, KFC buckets, game.
Oh. That's it.
Invisible off-screen girlfriend.
Mm-hmm.
Invisible.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't get in the way of my gaming.
Yeah, that's good.
Sometimes I go to the gym. I do gym a little bit, but then I degenerate into KFC buckets again.
Yeah. I realized that I was a similar cycle of like I go to the gym and then like suddenly I realized like, oh wait, I haven't been to the gym in like months. What's going on? And then I like go back, and so I was like, I know, I'll build a home gym. This was years ago. Like I was like in my 20s when I realized like I need to build a home gym. So I put like, we were renting this little house, my wife and I was like, I just put like a gym in the kitchen basically. That's the only space we had for it. And that worked pretty well for a long time. I injured my knees at one point, and that sort of put a bit of a stop on it for a while. But yeah, even now I've got a gym. I've got like a rack in the garage, and I go out there and lift weights when I can. But yeah, it's
hard to get into a routine.
Yeah, the routine's the hard part. Just
getting started is always the hardest part.
Yeah. There are some questions in the chat, which I'll ask, and feel free to post some questions in the chat over the next 40 minutes or so. We'll try and get to them. But Umbrella, anime girlfriend Umbrella. I don't know what that is.
She's still there, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, it's that was many years ago, a couple of years ago.
I've never heard of this one, I don't think so.
There's just Twitter videos of like this anime drawn on like this electrical box or something. Someone that drew there, and I'm always like going back to see if it's still there.
Yeah,
that's about the extent of that.
Let's go, Justin. I'm just trying to skim the chat for anything else. there's some funny comments, but nothing, no more questions yet right now.
I will say that I mean, most of what I do is just very boring. Like working out, eating with friends, just boring.
I mean, that's not boring. That's good stuff. I find it interesting. Yeah.
When I was making the Waterworld game, and I decided to make that Waterworld game in 3 months, while I was also streaming full time, essentially, I will say that I didn't do anything else.
Yeah,
that was it. It was like streaming Waterworld game, ATOL videos, streaming Waterworld game, ATOL videos, and in between bits, I would set up the next stream.
It sounds like a good existence, honestly. Like, it's not that bad for a little while.
For a little while, maybe, but you also go completely insane. And going insane is a byproduct of that. But I mean, you get a lot done. I probably got more done in that 3 months than I had ever done before. So, that was lucrative. Just try to maintain that.
It's not a way to live, but it's a good hey, this is a thing that exists right now. And if you know it's going to pass, like, you're going to get to the end of it, like, you can live with it, right? Yeah. I think. There was a couple of questions that came up that are more legit. And there was one that's just like, hey, I'm new here. What's this about? This is a podcast that we're doing live. I'm having a chat with McCaw45 here, who is an awesome streamer. If you haven't checked out McCaw45's channel yet, please go drop a follow. I'm sure some of you get a shout out going for you now. And I am Mike, and I also stream. So there was another question here, which was, hang on, here it is. Last good pinball table you played. So I've got my own pinball machine back here.
Is it a Waterworld pinball machine?
I wish. No, actually, the last pinball machine that I nearly bought was a Stargate one. But this is a Comet. It's just a Williams Comet. It's from 1985.
The old ones, yeah.
Yeah. So have you ever played a pinball machine before? Start
there. I did the same thing on pinball for a very brief period of time that I did with video games, where I'm like, all right, I need to know what's out there. I'm like so interested, so I brought up the pinball database site, the IM, whatever the heck it's called, and I went through like everything.
Yeah.
And so like I know about most pinball machines from like 1985 onwards at least.
Okay.
Italian ones. I found this. I forget the name of it now, but there's some Italian pinball machine that's barbarian themed. It's like this. It's got Conan. Like no. This is like an Italian made one. It's not American or anything.
Right.
I forget the name. It wouldn't be hard to find because there's only like maybe 20 Italian pinball machines or something. But yeah, I was really interested in just finding all the pinball machines like that. But there is a few places near me that have a lot of pinball machines, and I go to them every now and then. But it's not like it used to be. I used to go into tournaments and stuff a little bit for like maybe 1 or 2 years. I was really into it.
That's awesome. So you used to go to do like participate in the tournaments as well.
Yeah.
What was your favorite machine?
I didn't have a favorite machine because I was very much in the process of just wanting to play stuff and just wanting to get access to more stuff. Like I got really into pinball when pinball here was completely extinct.
Yeah.
And you would find like one machine here, one machine there. They're always destroyed.
Yeah. There's a lot of private collections as well. But like back in the day, I don't know how big private collections were, but
yeah, well, I mean, for a period there, I was always thinking to myself, man, I just wish there was like a Medieval Madness near me and like a decent Addams Family or anything like this. Little did I know that in about 3 or 4 years from that time, it'd be like the hot spot in Australia for pinball up here.
Right.
So there's pinball everywhere. Like there's places with like multiple like Medieval Madness and stuff, like all really well maintained. It's crazy up here now. So, yeah, I have access to a lot of machines, although I still haven't played Waterworld. So. Yeah,
I thought about trying to see Waterworld. I thought back, like, I don't think I've actually seen it physically before.
Yeah, I haven't either.
But I used to go to pinball meets at, like, private collections and stuff like that. And there was, like, always some really amazing machines. But I don't remember seeing Waterworld. Or Stargate, for that matter, which was that was the machine that I wanted to get recently.
I've never played that one either.
Yeah,
actually,
it looks really good. I don't know if it is good, but it looks really good. The other thing is like virtual pinball, like setting up like a VR headset with a pinball machine, which I haven't done yet, but I've been thinking about it.
There's so many different ways that digital pinball can go. Some people like the recreations of the existing machines. When it comes to, I mean, I can understand the appeal of that if you don't live anywhere near physical tables that you have access to. But for me, when it comes to digital pinball, I'm more interested in stuff that's exclusive, like a game for like PCs that is unique to that. Like you can't get it anywhere else. So, you know, stuff like Devil Crush or whatever it's called on Mega Drive, that kind of cool stuff.
Yeah.
When you're fighting like dragons on the table, it's like complete fantasy. You can't have it in real life. Like, oh, there's a dragon on the table. It's a boss. I love that stuff.
I don't want to move on too quickly from this, but I'm just going to read some more questions. So,
all the questions, let's hear them.
Yeah. J-SWAT.
J-SWAT?
They're actually asking if I will play it, but J-SWAT, will you play J-SWAT?
Me?
Yeah, will you play it?
I played it.
When did you play
it? Like 3 days ago.
Oh, okay, I missed that stream. That's why I did. Yeah,
3 or 4 days ago.
So I guess I have to answer this one then. Will I play J-SWAT? I don't know.
You just need to get a Sega Saturn emulator, and the game goes for about 1 hour, and you're good.
Okay. I mean, maybe. Maybe.
It has some of the highest quality Japanese FMV I've ever seen.
Oh, okay. All right. I totally missed this stream, so I'm just looking at some screenshots of it now. Like, what is this? Okay. Well, maybe. That's a possibility. I won't say no. So, do you have plans to do a Crazed retrospective soon?
That's always happening. Yeah, that's always happening. I don't know what the next one will be, but yeah, I've got a bunch of things in the works, and it's just a matter of getting to them. But we'll see. There's a big. I've been wanting to do last year I did like the Predator retrospectives and stuff, playing all the games based on like Predator and.
I remember that. Yeah.
Lethal Weapon I did as well. I did Lethal Weapon.
Did you do Lethal Weapon?
Yeah,
I missed that. I remember like Lethal Weapon was a DOS game. I know it was an Amiga port, but it was a DOS game. That's how I remembered. Like,
the DOS version, they made it much easier than the Amiga version.
I remember liking it. My brother and I were into that game.
Yeah, like it's goofy but kind of fun.
Yeah.
The Amiga version drove me insane. It was so hard. The last stage was so hard. That's to be expected of an Amiga game developed in England. There's going to be the hardest games.
An Amiga game developed in England is a recipe for pain.
That and Korean DOS games, they're the hardest games in general. Easily.
Yeah. I think I've only played like a handful of Korean DOS games, and not like for long, because I've been like Wildcard Wednesday, like shuffling through games, like, oh, okay, I'll give this one a quick play and then move on to the next one. So
yeah,
that's hard. It's hard to get a real sense of like, is this game really difficult, or am I just not understanding it?
Most of them I've played are bloody impossible. They're so hard.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I believe you. I mean, they're challenging things, like,
but they've also got like the most impressive action games on DOS in terms of side scrollers anyway. So that's what Korea has going for it. It's pretty hard to beat like the Ziklunt and Astro Counter of Crescents.
Right. Moving on to another question, we got one that's just like Aladdin retrospective coming along. How's that coming along?
Yeah, that's been shelved for a little while.
Okay.
I'll do it eventually. I will do it, but it's been completely like
How broad does the net get cast for Aladdin retrospectives though? Because like you could go pretty broadly with
like everything,
Yeah.
all the Windows 3.1 or Windows 95 edutainment and everything.
Are you going to just like focus on stuff tied to Disney properties, or are you going to go broader than that?
Anything that's just based on it's just the Disney Aladdin movie.
Aladdin, yeah.
For that was the Disney Aladdin thing, but not it has to be based only on the movie. It's not like one of the Disney sort of crossover things where there's just a character from every cartoon in the damn thing.
Like the parlor games that you got from Sierra back then.
Yeah. So there wasn't that many. There was maybe like 20 or something Aladdin standalone games.
It's more than I thought. Like when you say not that many, I'm like, okay, 7.
Well, maybe it was like 15. I don't know. But there was a Russian exclusive.
Oh.
There was a Russian exclusive. I know that. So that was pretty funny. I'll play them eventually, but I don't know when.
Oh, man. I do want to try and get through the questions, but there's a really good one here, because we talked about food briefly when you talked about KFC, and I know there's like the tiramisu, there's the there's a lot of macaw foods that are like becoming memes almost, right? So
delicious foods.
There was the squid tubes.
I was totally addicted to squid tubes for a while. Yeah. You're
no longer addicted?
Nah, I mean, I reckon I could. I've been tempted to get back into them. They're pretty good, eh?
The cheap lasagna. There was a lot.
I had to give up on the cheap lasagna. Like that would destroy like that.
Oh yeah.
You can get like those $8 2-kilogram lasagnas, $6 2-kilogram lasagnas, and I think those cheap factory lasagnas are so delicious. I could eat like the whole thing, and the whole thing is like 5 times recommended daily intake, so it's just destruction. It's like the fastest way to put on weight. So
yeah. Okay, the actual food question though is, what's your favorite breakfast to cook?
I never make anything. I just have cereal.
You never make anything. Okay.
I'm addicted to this like peach cereal. Sorry,
peach cereal?
Yeah, it's like peach flavored something or other. I forget what it's called exactly, but I'm addicted to it.
Great. I've never heard of a peach cereal before.
It's like bits of peach in it. It's just like cornflakes, but it's got some kind
with
of peach.
Okay, yeah.
I forget what they're called. I don't even pay attention to what they're called anymore. It's just like background, but I just eat that in the morning.
All right. I'm really trying to scan for questions. I should have asked people to like prefix them with something. But anyway, do you play modern games, guys? This is to both of us from Skull. Do we play modern games? I do.
I streamed Trepain 2 a couple of days ago.
There you go. That's an easy question to answer.
Whatever's cool. It does like I can't limit myself to just old games. I mean, every game is old after a few months anyway.
That's right.
It just depends on what's cool
Yeah.
Trepang 2, specific to me, is like a spiritual successor to Fear. I was obsessed with Fear when it came out, so I had to play Trepang 2.
Yep.
There's plenty of indie games that come out that are right up both alleys as well. So.
Oh yeah. I'm always keeping an eye on like indie releases. Like it's hard to keep an eye on it these days. I used to be across that. Like I'd sit on TigSauce and like other indie websites, like trying to keep track of like what's coming out next, and like, oh, this one looks great, can't wait to get that one, that sort of thing. But it's too hard to keep track of it now because there's like awesome releases come out of nowhere. You're like, I never even heard of these people before, and suddenly they've got this awesome game. Yeah. Yes, we do play modern games. The last one I played, I guess, was Sons of the Forest. Is the last one I like played through, unless you count System Shock Remaster, which I also just played through. So yeah. I don't usually stream them. I occasionally stream modern stuff, but
I still need to play the original System Shock. I was very much into System Shock 2 when it came out.
Yeah, you should go back and play that thing, man. It's awesome.
Yeah. I've heard
really
that it's quite
game.
different from System Shock 2.
It's different. I think it's like, I don't want to have an argument with anybody about it, but I reckon it's better in a lot of ways. Like, it does
It's
better
more
job.
Ultima Underworld, isn't it? Like, System Shock 2 is a little more sort of just... It's kind of like FPS with a little bit of, like, the Diablo inventory management.
Yeah.
And, I mean, there's a lot going on in System Shock 2. Obviously, it's an incredible game, but
System
it's very
Shock
different
2
from System Shock 1.
borrows from, like, what's happened in RPGs up until this point, whereas System Shock 1 was still very inventive, because there wasn't a lot to lend from, right? But anyway, yeah. It also does a better job of like, hey, this is simulation, and like you pick up a cybernetic implant and you apply it to your character, and then that's what improves your character. It's not like I need to collect enough nanites so that I can upgrade my stats. It's like, it's not an RPG with like points systems. It's like you found this thing and you plug it in and now you're better. Like that's more simulated reality. Yeah. Like it's closer to a real simulation if that makes sense. Like you found the upgrade.
I remember buying BioShock, and it was fine, but it didn't hit me like System Shock 2 did. I never got a BioShock sequel after that.
No, I didn't play any of the sequels either. I actually stopped playing BioShock like probably halfway through, and I still haven't gone back and played it. So yeah, I don't know. It was disappointing. Like I had this like idea in my head of what it was going to be like, and it was marketed that way. Like it was marketed as like the spiritual successor to System Shock, and it was going to be awesome. And I couldn't, at the time, I couldn't get into it. I need to revisit it. It's probably actually a good game. A lot of people love it.
I like plenty of concepts in it, but there's a bunch of things about it as well that just kind of fall flat.
Yeah.
For me.
Sorry, I'm just trying to find if there's more people posting questions, because there are. Nocturnal biorhythm. Have you ever slipped into a nocturnal biorhythm? I mean, that happens to me.
I'm in a nocturnal biorhythm right now, I like to think.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
It happens to me when I'm not working a day job. Like my hours will cycle slowly until I'm like up all night and sleeping for half the day kind of thing, and then it's sort of like I usually correct it though. I usually correct it. But, yeah. Does that ever happen to you? You're pretty consistent on your times. Like you go live around the same time and stuff like that.
A lot of the time I sleep very little. Sometimes I need like a catch-up day just for sleep, but a lot of the times I go to bed like really late and get up really early, and it's all over the place. Yeah. As long as I have the enthusiasm. If I feel like I need a break, I'll just sleep in and announce on my Discord I'm not streaming today.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, the stream announcements are good. I like the way you do that.
Yeah, because I could never have a schedule. Like I was never able to. I don't know. Like I'm like worried about having a schedule, but at the same time, I kind of have a schedule that people expect.
You're pretty consistent, even though you don't have one.
I feel like I can be that consistent because I don't have the schedule. It's just like I don't know. Like I feel like I have to have the enthusiasm to want to play a game every time to make it exciting both for me and for the viewers, because I actually want to do it. It just so happens that that's most days. Yeah.
And like you will play games that you're excited to play. Like I don't think I've ever seen you go like, hey guys, I think we're going to play this game. Not too excited about it, but we'll see how it goes. I don't think I've ever seen that. Like it's always like, all right guys, war time. Let's talk about this game. Like,
it could be a game where like I'm really excited to play it, but there's a high chance it's terrible trouble for whatever reason.
Yeah, okay.
But I'm still excited to play it for whatever reason.
There's still some enthusiasm for like this is.
You have to have a reason.
Yeah. That's actually one thing I didn't ask, and feel free to not answer this one, but like streaming is like your job, right? Basically.
For the most part, in terms of like in the day, yes.
Yeah.
Like I put a lot of there was a certain point where I didn't treat it that way for the longest time, but then I was like, I'm just going to put more effort into it because it's so fun.
Yeah. I mean, it can take work, right, to do the things that you do for streaming, but like it feels less like work than a day job. But like, so how long has that been? Is that like, when did you come to a realization at some point, like, wait, I don't need to do day jobs now, or?
I don't know. It was like, it's been at least like, how many years? Maybe like 4 years, 3 years. I don't know, something. There was never really a point for me. It was like I've just sort of floated along, just doing the same thing. I was doing the exact same thing even before I was streaming. It's literally the same. I would stay up, like looking at lists of games and stuff, and being hyped to play stuff. It was exactly the same. It's just now I stream it.
Right. So you had a pretty fortunate circumstance that allowed you to do that pretty easily then.
To a certain degree.
That's awesome.
To a certain degree, like I mean, I'm not like taking risks where it's like, oh man, I'm gonna make big money off streaming, but I don't buy anything that's not like Japanese Windows 95 games or DOS copies of, I don't know. I don't buy anything else.
Yeah.
This is all I own. This is what I own here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like I was able to do it.
That's awesome though.
Yeah, but there's always a lot more things I want to do, like in terms of. Well, there's not a lot more things I want to do. There's only 2 things I want to do.
Okay.
I just want to stream. No, there's 3 things I want to do. I want to stream. I want to.
3 might be too many.
I want to do YouTube videos, but I've never got around to the YouTube videos because I'm more interested in doing the game development stuff because the Waterworld thing was so fun.
Yeah.
That was the most rewarding thing. Seeing people play the game and react to it, seeing you play it and react to it, was so rewarding. So yeah, game development and streaming.
So that's the 3.
But yeah, essentially. But I don't know. I don't know when I'll ever do YouTube videos. I don't know.
That's my ideal trifecta as well. I that's been my goal for, I don't know, over a year, maybe 2 years now.
There's only one big problem with that trifecta, is that the game development's really hard.
Oh, it's a deep hole, that the game dev hole. Yeah,
and
I know.
That sucked the life out of me when I was doing that during those 3 months of the Waterworld development. That was I was like, man, this is. I mean, we already talked about this, but yeah, it was overwhelming. We can talk more.
Go.
It's just overwhelming.
Yeah.
Like, yes, yeah.
I know, because you did talk about it, and I didn't like probe any that much on this because you've already got a pretty awesome VOD where you go, like, there's developer commentary, there's talking about the process and things like that already. But like, touching on the psychological damage that you achieve when you go full hard mode on game dev like that, what did you do to manage that? Because like, you either manage it or you fail, right? Like at some point something has to give. Were you just fortunate enough, like 3 months was enough to get the game done enough to release it, or were you actually like, okay, I need to do this today just for my mental health? Like,
the main thing was the Atolls videos. The Atolls videos was the main thing that got me through that in a way that kept the momentum and kept the fun.
That enthusiasm driver. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the other main thing, it's actually the other thing is probably more important than the Atoll videos even, is my community. Just knowing that I had a community to share this with when it dropped was the most exciting thing. That was the main thing. So that's what, I mean, I'm sitting there when I do that development stuff. I don't have music on or anything. The only thing I've ever done is have Atoll videos on, but
Yeah.
Even usually I would have nothing. I'm just like zombie, just like this.
Yeah.
Like,
I can relate. I used
Yeah.
what I would put on in the background, and this was just to drown out other sounds like people talking or whatever around me, was like I'd put on white noise generator.
Yeah, yeah.
That's it. So I could focus. Like, yeah.
Yeah, so but yeah, it's basically just the community being there that made it exciting to want to reveal it. And yeah, the ATOL videos were cool as well, especially since they tied into what I was doing.
Yeah. So when you first announced the game, like, because it wasn't done yet when you first shared like the first screen, right?
No, it started as a joke during the Waterworld marathon when I was playing all the video games based on Waterworld.
So it started as a joke?
Is this focus? There we go.
Yeah. Autofocus is awesome when it works.
Yeah, it started as a joke. I think the ATOL actually made a video based on it. But he's got clips of me saying it, which I had totally forgotten about.
Before the game was released, he
got clips from my my marathon of Waterworld games where I played 5 Waterworld games over like a week or something. Including the DOS Waterworld game. Let's not forget that one. Very important.
Is the DOS one the best of the Waterworld games?
It's the most interesting one by far. The best is, they're all different genres, so it's hard to say the best, but it was made by the dudes that made Sim Isle. It's like that weird RTS. So yeah, it's the most interesting one. But yeah, I remember very early on at the beginning of that marathon, I made a joke. It's like, I'm just going to make the Simpsons game a reality, because I made the Simpsons alert as a thing for that. For that marathon, which has stuck since. But I just said it as a joke, and then I was like enthusiastic to do it. I felt enthusiastic to just recreate it. So I started, but I never expected as to what it would become.
It's really impressive, like, that you got from like, hey, this is a little bit of a joke, like, haha, maybe I'll try this, and then you were like, oh yeah, it's actually coming along, I'm going to do it now. Like, and then you went full game dev mode for like 3 months, you said, and then that was it. So you obviously had some people like testing it, and like I remember you talked about your brother tested it.
And my brother got real mad at me a bunch, but yeah, he was the main tester essentially.
That's awesome. So you didn't have any, that was it? You and your brother testing the game, that's it?
I think I showed it to like one other person, maybe. I'm trying to remember, but yeah, like one of my friends that's here tested it as he did one playthrough, like when the game was mostly finished. That was about it. Yeah, my brother played the versions before I put the 5 coins at a time in, and it was individual 40 every single time. And I actually had it as individual coins every single time, all the way up until you fight Dennis Hopper.
Right.
So it was that far into the game before I changed it, and that was making people really mad. So and I'm like, I want people to play this. No one's going to play it that far.
Oh, no,
like that, so.
No, I don't think so. That's pretty cool, though. I guess once you... Like, the way you did it, the way you landed is perfect, because you do get that frustration of like, oh my god, I'm putting in 40 freaking coins. And then you take that one step and get the joke from the show, and then you start playing the game. Like, that's when it really starts. It's good.
At which point I had to invent my own memes for like what the joke in The Simpsons would have been if it was a real game. And that basically consists of like, oh, this thing killed you. Now you know it's there. And then you have to put another 40 coins in. Then you just have to memorize the... Yeah.
You didn't reference, like you said, it's like 95% Waterworld and 5% Simpsons.
The only Simpsons inspiration is just the general atmosphere of The Simpsons.
Yeah. Like and character designs
and just what you saw in the show. And to a certain degree, it's not really in line with the joke of The Simpsons in the sense that the whole point of the joke in The Simpsons is that it's not supposed to be a full game. It's supposed to just be the step. That's the joke.
That is
so the fact that I made it a full game kind of defeats the purpose of the joke. But the enthusiasm of wanting to see that as a real game overrode that for me.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, whatever. I know that the writer probably thinks that's a silly thing to do, but I just did anyway. I don't care.
Well, and I know that you've said before, like, you always wondered, like, what's on the next screen, right? Like, we see those...
Yeah, as a kid,
Yeah, you see those sort of things in The Simpsons or other shows that portrayed video games, and you're like, I mean, what's that golf game really like? Like, or what's that Simpsons game really like? Like, yeah, I can really relate to that idea of like what's on the next screen or something like that. I remember feeling the same way about some stuff I'd read in books. Like there was like I can't remember what the series was anymore, but there was some books and they're like talking about the video games in the book that they were playing, and I was like, oh, that sounds really good, but there was nothing else in the book about it. Like what was that game about? Like, you know. So
Trying to steal ideas for your own game development.
yeah, I'm pretty sure I did. Like I was making text adventures at the time, and so I think I tried to make like a text adventure based on that concept. But yeah, I don't know. All that stuff's lost to time because we sold that computer, and I wasn't smart enough to back up to floppy disk or something. So anyway, yeah. So there are more questions if we want to go back to questions from the audience. Those topics sort of occurred to me, and I thought I should ask. Sorry, there's some funny comments too. What's an unemulatable because of the hardware peripheral concerns, but released game that eats you because you haven't streamed it or can't stream it? That's from Mr. Radon. It's an awesome question.
I can stream. Well, no, I'd have to think about that. There probably is something I can't stream.
I mean, there's certain things with physical controls that you're not going to get the right experience.
I mean, there's like the calculator games. There's like the digital diary calculator games, but I can ghetto. It always comes down to you can always ghetto stream.
Yeah. Point a camera at this device and then away you go.
Yeah.
And there's also like a lot of there's some emulation for like those Tiger handhelds and stuff.
Oh yeah, they've got emulation in name now. Yeah, a decent amount of them. I mean, there's thousands of those things, but I was collecting those for a while as well, but I have done streams of them where like I put a camera and I play it in front.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. I think that the idea of pointing a camera at something to play it is like a cool idea. Like I thought about doing that with CRTs just to get like a more true to life experience, but like it never translates well. I mean, I haven't been able to get it to work that nicely.
I mean, there's the Sega Pico. That's the kids' Mega Drive, essentially, that was super popular for Sega in the 90s and onwards in Japan. And that's emulatable, but it sucks with emulation because the games are controlled by a book. It's this big book that's like a cartridge as well, and you put the book in the machine and you turn the pages, and as you turn the pages, it goes to the different scene in the game. Wow. So if you want the one-on-one fight where Ultraman is fighting some monster, you have to go to a certain page, and then that will be the game that starts there as that page. So you kind of, I've actually owned a couple Pico games. I want to get one eventually. That there's hundreds of them.
So it will be streamable once you get the device, right? Like at that point.
Yeah, but you'd kind of want like a camera on the book,
controls camera
on the book, and then either a capture device or whatever for the screen. Yeah,
that's a lot of stuff you'd have to do to get it set up, but like sounds doable.
There's a lot of awesome Pico games, even though it's a system for like 8-year-olds. it's Japanese. It doesn't mess around. It's got some awesome stuff on it. Yeah.
I mean, I'm trying to think of like there's like a whole bunch of like weird little consoles. Like there's the Leapfrog Learning one. That's like one that I think is pretty much in every Western country. There's like a handheld console that you can put Leapfrog cartridges into and play. But
I remember there was a stream I remember there was a stream I did where, I mean, it doesn't really count because it's not games, but I was playing physical action games, like physical toys that were games. I should do another one of those streams at some. I used to collect those things. I still have them all. But
that sounds pretty good.
Yeah, like the most popular one outside of Japan that was actually localized, I guess, was like, it had a couple of names, but the main name for it might be Screwball Scramble, where there's like a ball and you have to guide it through an obstacle course.
Okay.
And there's a whole genre of those in Japan, and I made a huge list and I was collecting them for years. It was a lot of fun, but I only ever did one stream of that stuff. I should do more. And that was like 4 years ago or something. It was a long time ago.
These they're digital though. Like I'm trying to understand they're digital games.
No, it's just a physical toy.
Okay.
Physical toy that you put a camera on, and I could stream it if that counts. But you can still stream it.
Okay, I'm seeing something here. Okay, it's like a modular toy.
I think that one they did do some expansion pack versions of it or something. Okay. But the original version that was literally released in the 70s, I think, it's like you guide a ball, and yeah, they're really cool. I think they're fun.
Right, like lab.
Like I got these like Japanese ones that have like fantasy themes and stuff, and they're so cool.
Oh wait, this is not the kind of labyrinth I was thinking of. But like, you remember that labyrinth thing with like the wooden table where you could roll the ball bearing through the maze?
Oh yeah. I remember seeing that.
Oh man, yeah, you just reminded me of that. We my parents probably still have one in the house somewhere. It was like a thing in the 70s or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, Tomy. I think Tomy in Japan, or Tommy, they were the ones that started it, and then Epoch and Yutaka and all these companies went crazy with it, and then Westerners started discovering and importing them over.
Yeah, I've got a weird question here from Eleanor Ray, the gaming cat. A djinn grants you a wish of a box of obscure games. You just have to name the country from which those come from. Which country do you name? like how
the one country the one country that you can't that made thousands of games but they're hard to get is Korea, because the Korean stuff is just, they don't have like an eBay thing that's for like everyone's got their own ID number. It's very hard to penetrate into the Korean market unless you're a domestic person there. You just can't penetrate. They don't have. It's not like the Taiwanese stuff where I can easily buy on auctions. The Japanese stuff the same. Any European country. So it would have to be Korea or the Israeli stuff. The only thing about the Israeli stuff is that the Israeli stuff is much fewer games. But if I could get like Israeli box copies of Skateboard Kid and Beasts of Horror and Dragon Isle, I would be pretty happy. But that's never going to happen because I'm not sure there's any copies of those games that exist except for Skateboard Kid, which is in the Israeli Museum of Gaming or something.
Wow.
It's like one known, because there was probably only like 500 copies released and they're all destroyed. So
I'm just trying to look up Dragon Isle because it sounds...
it's on Dragon Isle. Dragon Isles, maybe? It's on Moby Games. I first saw it on Moby Games. It was uploaded by an Israeli guy, and I actually messaged him to talk about Israeli games to him.
Wow.
And yeah, Dragon Isle came out before Warcraft 1. It's actually plays like Warcraft. I always see it as the unsung hero of actually doing what Warcraft did before Warcraft came out. I think June 2 had come out, but it was before Warcraft. So
it was 93 on.
Yeah, and it's very Warcraft. It's not like Dune. Obviously there's 0% chance that Blizzard saw this. Blizzard did their own thing. It's not like they were copying this, but they really did do Warcraft 1 before Warcraft 1 came out.
Wow, that's fascinating.
It's pretty high quality. It's a really high quality game.
It looks great. I like the graphics. They're very cute.
That dragon that you fly around on is actually the mouse. When you move the mouse, that dragon hovers around and you control it. It's almost like ActRaiser or something, where you've got the cherubim in ActRaiser or whatever.
Oh, man. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, and there's like an advertisement. I don't know if this was on Moby Games as well, but there's an advertisement showing from all the different games from this publisher in Israel. And basically the corner of the advertisement has tiny little thumbnails of the cover art.
Right.
There's like a dragon and stuff. And then all the main part of the advertisement is for like Ultimate 8 and all these West American games. But yeah, they did come released in big boxes.
Awesome. Do you mind if I leave you for a minute? I've got a message from my wife. I need to go check on something.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I can. I'll take care of chat.
Keep company with chat. Yeah, I'll be right back. Sorry about this.
No, you're right. All right, chat. Chat. What do we do? I can take over Mike's stream for a moment. Do we show the Japanese 18 plus Windows 95 games? Guys, chat. Do we bust out the Japanese? Do we? All right, guys. This is a copy of Amazonator, Windows 3.1. That's a Japanese game. I have to make a I have to cover bits of it, but there's a copy of Amazonator, guys. Where's... I've just got these ones within arm's distance here. There's Rabid Helix. Rabid Helix is pretty cool. Play J-Swap? Maybe I should. What about everyone's favorite? Everyone's favorite. How can I show this? Everyone's favorite. Alone in the Dick. We could stream Alone in the Dick. It's better than Alone in the Dark, if you ask me. I think it's better than Alone in the Dark. Yeah, those are pretty. Those are pretty cool. Welcome back. Chat's excited.
My apologies. Chat's excited about what?
I don't know. It's a mystery to me. I definitely didn't show anything on stream that.
Oh, okay.
Excited them.
I'll check the vote later. That'll be good. Thank you for keeping everybody company. Sorry, I had a minor. It wasn't really an emergency. I don't think I can control that, but anyway, I had to sort that out. I think we were talking about this Dragon Isle game.
Israeli games from
Israeli
the early
games, yeah.
90s. They existed for a little bit there.
That's awesome. I remember seeing a Hebrew cover for Loom that looks so cool. I don't know, like it's basically the same cover, but it's just like slightly cooler looking.
Yeah, a lot of this stuff. Israel went crazy doing Hebrew versions. Like they weren't just bringing the boxes from America and just that was it. Like they actually printed new boxes that were in Hebrew,
fully localized. Yeah,
pretty high effort. Yeah,
pretty awesome. There was a ton more questions in the chat, but I don't know if we can get to them all. I don't know how much time you have, but I did tell you, like, I told you up to about 3 hours. We got some time left.
There's time.
But I'll try and catch up with some of these other questions in the chat because I don't want to leave chat out of it too much.
What do you want to see, chat?
Someone wants to know what squid tubes are. So Nomadic wants to know what squid tubes are.
Squid tubes, that's all they are. That's what it says.
Just Google it.
Buy them and you can cook them, and they're pretty good sometimes if you cook them right. They can be terrible as well.
Did you find like the best way to cook them?
No, I'm terrible.
You still okay? Yeah. All right.
I never even looked. I just chucked them into like a pan and they were good enough. Fried them.
Mm-hmm. Oh, here's a question that a lot of people always ask is like, what's retro? Like, is Mass Effect retro yet? You like Witness asked, but the question really is like, what counts as retro? Is it important?
There's no answer to this question.
Yeah,
I streamed Rise Son of Rome recently, which is 10 years old.
That's retro, right?
And yeah, 10 years old. If you think about Quake 3 compared to 10 years before Quake 3, when you literally had pixel art like 1991 pixel RPG, there's a huge difference.
Yeah,
it's just that these days
the
there's
fidelity increments per year were a lot larger back then than they are now. Yeah.
So you can't really put a date on it anymore. Like it has to be at least 10 years old. It doesn't mean anything.
I've heard people saying like, "Oh, 2 console generations old," but that's like Skyrim's retro then. Right?
Yeah, like it like, still means very little. It doesn't mean much.
I don't know if 2 generations is enough. It is, right? Yeah. Anyway, yeah, I don't know.
The formula for AAA sandbox games at the very least hasn't changed in like a good 15 or 10 years or so now. Like it's been fairly consistent.
They've stagnated a bit.
Yeah, so it's not like the 90s where you went from like the very end of the 80s and the early 90s, you went from 2D side scrollers that were being made on the Amiga and then ported to the DOS, suddenly shifting into like strategy games that were popular on DOS when DOS took over more, suddenly shifting into RTSs when Command and Conquer came out,
Yeah.
suddenly shifting into FPSs, and then really 1995 to 2000 was basically a battle between FPS and RTS, and that's only 5 years, which is literally the development time of one AAA game these days.
Yeah.
So it's insane.
And remember, like, there was games that people were like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe this game has taken so long to develop. It's been 3 years." Like, yeah. These days, like, wait, they developed this in 3 years? That's awesome.
Yeah, like AAA games, there's like 5 years easy. So
yeah, yeah. My answer to this question is basically like, I will play a game that was released yesterday under retro if it's made like for a retro platform, like something that I would consider a retro platform. So if you made a DOS game and released it tomorrow, and I would still stream it under retro because it's a retro game. Like, it's probably, according to the dictionary, it's more accurately a retro game because it's made in the style of the vintage style, like, right?
Say, like saying it's a retro game or an old game, and even if you say an old game, how old? Yeah, because you could show someone a game from 1991 that looks way better than a game from like 2015 that's an indie game with worse pixel art than some crazy Japanese Super Nintendo game from 1991 that looks amazing still.
Right.
Like, because pixel art doesn't age.
The indie pixel art games, where it's like the pixels are like different sizes on each of the objects, and
the scaling
scale, and they don't really like look right. Yeah, that whole like It's a bit disappointing when they don't.
But there's a lot of astonishing pixel art always coming out these days as well. It's like pixel art's more popular than it's ever been.
Yeah, and there's more pixel art technology now than there was back then. Although Deluxe Paint was freaking amazing.
Just sheerly being able to have references, like in the old days.
Oh yeah,
you like there's like the developers of Legend on Super Nintendo, which you might not be familiar with, but I always talk about this game. It's like these two French dudes that decide to make a beat 'em up on Super Nintendo. They go to the arcade and take photos of like King of Dragons, and then they take it home so they can have a reference. And that's like a blurry image. You can't see the pixels defined properly, so it's even harder reference as well.
Man, this looks good.
Oh, Legend. Carlo Piconti and Liaz Belladoni. They made it in 3 months.
Wow.
They made it in 3 months and put a incredibly sharp competition to the Japanese big company games from Capcom and stuff on Super Nintendo, if you ask me. Absolutely incredible. But Carlo Piconti was already basically a god at that time. And Liaz Belladoni was basically the best pixel artist that Titus had in France.
Right. Oh, man, Titus.
Yeah. he worked on prehistoric games and stuff, like the prehistoric series. Lord Titus and Lord Carlo Piconti. Carlo Piconti was only like 24, 25 at this time, and he'd already had like multiple video game companies.
Wow.
Like he was very prolific.
Oh man, Legend looks freaking amazing, actually. I have not played it, so I'm gonna have to go check that one out.
It's really cool.
Yeah.
It's really impressive for given that they didn't even have a dev kit. they didn't even have a Nintendo dev kit. Apparently, they did all this bootleg stuff. It's really hilarious story.
That's awesome, actually.
And when they released the game, all the media completely crapped on it because they hated beat 'em ups at that time. And it was mascot platformers, especially from France.
Oh yeah,
Mr. Nuts. That was the game that was taking all the limelight. So like the developers were really bitter about that. And there's this story about the pixel artist Liaz Belladoni. He like went to an E3 and he tracked down these dudes that gave him a bad review, and they said they'll give him a good review, and he like grabbed the guy. and Liaz Belladoni, he's like a bodybuilder as well.
Wow.
Like, he's this super buff like French dude that looks like the Conan type physique. So you can imagine how scared you'd be having this huge dude come after you, and he's like, "Why did you give my game a bad review?"
That's so good. Yeah. What a good story, man. There's so many good stories out there.
It's a lot of hilarious stories.
Yeah, I think one day someone's gonna have to like start writing down some of these awesome stories, a little like weird stories of retro gaming or something like that, a little coffee table book. I better catch up with some more of these questions though. There's some good ones. All right, that was the retro question, wasn't it? Right. Actually, this one's directed at me, but I'll direct it at both of us. Are you a fan of the Heroes of Might and Magic games?
Yes! Heroes of Might and Magic 2
yes.
I played extensively as a kid, and the Heroes of Might and Magic 2 demo is all I had. I didn't have the full version because the demo is all you needed. It had a good map that was open-ended. It had every unit, every building, and every faction in the demo of Heroes of Might and Magic 2. So that's all I needed.
That's all you need, yeah.
It was this big map with this really awesome map.
What a generous demo.
I played that demo so much, and there were people. I remember seeing Heroes of Might and Magic 2 in the shops in the box. I'm like, I don't need that. The demo is good enough. I don't need the campaign. I didn't care about the campaign. I could play all 6 or 7 or whatever castles. Not castles. They had races, and it was like barbarian and all that, right? They changed that in 3, but yeah. And then I bought 3 in a box later.
Right. Yeah, I had a similar experience with Daggerfall, although I did want to get the game, but the demo, there was 2 demos released for that. One was just like a dungeon crawler demo, so very limited, but the other one was like, it took place on like a tiny little island in the bay called Bethany is the name of the island, but they had like a city on there and like plenty of dungeons to explore, so you could spend hundreds of hours in that, just like messing around with the environment and doing little generated quests and all that. It was basically like just a very cut down version of the world, but you didn't really need that much. You could do everything in the demo. Like, it was really impressive.
I mean, Daggerfall is such a copy and paste game. Like every town's the same, the whole landscape is the same, but it's gigantic. It's the size of Great Britain or whatever.
I mean, it is gigantic. It's not like
huge.
The thing is, the technology let them down a bit, because like the world actually is more detailed and varied if you like traverse around, but you couldn't see far enough to like notice like, oh, there's hills over here, and like we're in a valley now. Like,
because I just remember walking and it was like a flat plain.
Yeah,
when you walk, you have to quick travel everywhere. But
and
like, I've never tried to finish it. I still want to finish it to see if it's actually fun to just follow the storyline. How much is copy and pasted? But
the story's
an ambitious game.
It is ambitious. The story's like not terrible, but it's also a little bit, I don't know, it's underserved by the technology of the time, I think. But anyway, that's I had that sort of experience with Daggerfall, but Heroes of Might and Magic, to answer the question, I'm not a fan, but only because I haven't played the series. I tried playing Heroes of Might and Magic, I think it was 3, when my brother got into it, and I just didn't love it, like, at the time. But at that very particular moment in time, I was like, just give me the FPS games, because that's all I want to play right now. So I need to give it a proper chance. I like Heroes of Might and Magic in theory, but I'll have to actually play it to say whether or not I do like it, because I haven't, like I said, haven't finished anything in that series. That's my answer to that question.
What kind of FPSs were you playing at the time?
So
was it just like Quake 2 and stuff?
Yeah, probably would have been Quake 2 and Unreal, and I got into Chasm late, so it was probably about that time that I was playing Chasm.
Yeah.
I was still playing Quake 1, because I was modding it a lot even then.
Oh yeah.
And then there was also Tribes, and I played that, but like it was really hard to convince people to play Tribes 2 on a LAN. Like, it was so hard to convince people, like, let's spend a couple of hours playing this. Like, I loved it, but you could tell like not everybody was really into it. I don't remember when Counter-Strike came out, but it could have been like a little after that.
Yeah, maybe like early 2000s or something.
Yeah. So like,
I remember not playing Quake 2. Quake 2 sort of went by me, but I played Quake 1 at the time.
Quake 2 was not as good as Quake 1 in terms of theme. Like, Quake 2 is just less interesting.
It's like very sort of, on the surface, it's very sort of generic. Like basically the first half of the game is box factories. Very standard, like, but there is some really cool stuff if you stick with it from what I've seen. I haven't played it through myself, but I've seen some cool stuff in it.
Yeah, I'm still scrolling through the chats. There's people asking me, like, did you see this question that we have actually answered a little while ago, so that's good. I'm still scrolling through the chat to catch up with them. But yeah, I think Quake 2, like, there was some good, like, Weapons Factory was good mod. There was some other good ones on there too, but I don't really... Yeah, I think LAN gaming, like, at the time, we would probably... I think it was, like, mostly it was Unreal Tournament and Quake 3 Arena, a little bit less than that. What else did we do? Like, yeah, I don't know. That was probably those sort of games, mostly LAN gaming.
We got an extremely powerful retro and gaming meme in chat right now.
Oh, really? Switching to keto diet and stream 12 to 3 hours 3 times a week? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know, if I could. I don't think I can manage it.
Need to become cybernetically enhanced.
Oh, man. It's just like I don't have enough hours in the day right now because, like, yeah, putting all of my effort into day job to make sure I can pay the bills, and then almost all the other effort goes into streaming, and whatever's left over, it's like YouTube production and game dev. So it's hard. It's hard to find the extra 6 hours I would need to do that.
I find that because maybe I stream a lot of games that are more like shorter in general, they could be finished in one stream. I like doing more streams, like streaming most of the days of the week, but they're like maybe 5 to 6 hours, although sometimes it could go like 8 or more if it's a crazed game.
Yeah.
But that's generally, I guess. Yeah, the only reason I do that is because it's so hard for me to start a different game after finishing one mid-stream.
You don't like to do that? Like just straight follow on with a new one?
No, because I like to present a game from the beginning with like the lore and everything as a standalone thing, whereas I feel it'll get lost in the shuffle if I'm doing... Well, I don't know. I think more of it, I just wouldn't have the enthusiasm either. I don't know. I need to be like cybernetically enhanced, like retro and gaming to do
it. Yeah. So I mean, like I've done dual. So I just started doing dual action on Saturdays, like a little while back, where I was like, you know what, I want to play through Jill of the Jungle, but I also want something else to like back that up with like a little bit more power, like something else, right? So I ended up doing. I don't even remember what I was playing at the time now. It might have been Catacombs 3D. You played that series, right?
I haven't played Catacombs 3, no.
I'm telling you right now, if you want to feel like the most powerful wizard on the planet, you have to play that freaking game. It's so freaking amazing.
It's like Wolfenstein, right? Like the same level of complexity.
It's so much better than Wolfenstein. Wolfenstein 3D has not aged super great. Whereas
I always thought of Catacombs as being like the same thing, but just maybe like one attack. Just less. It's just like more simple. It's less,
but that makes it more.
Oh, really?
It's one of the, like, it's kind of counterintuitive. Now, look, maybe this is just my stupid brain working the way it does, but I play that game and I'm like, I feel so powerful and I can run around the map and just blast the hell out of things. Like, you don't run out of ammo. You just press the attack button, like, as fast as you can. Tap the attack button. And then you like, there's like demons coming up out of the ground that you like just blasting and just totally destroy, harvesting the entire level, go through, go to the next level, and it's just like you repeat and do that again. It's so good. And like the maze, it does have some mazy levels, but you can work them out. They're not too.
That's the only thing that worries me about all Wolfenstein era FPSs is like, is it fun enough that I'm going to be addicted? And Wolfenstein is super fun, but ultimately the game devolves into lots and lots of levels that are all the same. Like it's the same thing over and over again. That can be good, but it can also be bad. So it depends on what you get from the game, and I guess that's on a game by game basis there.
Yeah, look, maybe you won't love it as much as I did, but like I felt like this was like an ultimate gaming experience for me.
I should look at them. Like, I mean, a lot of people forget that was before Wolfenstein for like that kind of fast-paced sort of FPS.
Yeah,
and it basically did like the medieval fantasy thing before Heretic did, of course, as well. So
yeah, it's like a proto-Heretic type thing for sure. Thanks for the raid, Proton. Hope the game dev's going well today. So yeah, there's I'm getting confused now. Catacombs 3D, like it came out, like they worked for Soft Disk at the time. They kind of like had to do this, like one of their projects, but then like Soft Disk took over and they did the other games, and they kept on upgrading the graphics and enhancing it and doing like cool little tricks and stuff. So there's like it'd be cool to play an abridged version of like all of the games, like just take some of the levels from all of them and like crush it down into like, because like the ultimate battles at the end are like kind of the same-ish, except for the last one is a little bit more complex. But yeah, I don't know, it's a good game. I recommend at least trying it out, like play through like an episode of it or something like that.
Yeah, I should.
Yeah, it's got a cool idea to it, and like the graphics do like improve over time. They all EGA, but like just the pixel art quality just gets stepped up a level each time.
Yeah,
so,
I feel very much in like a retro FPS mood recently. Like always wanting to play. There's a fun factor from that flat sort of style of FPS where you just got the gun aiming forward. There's no aiming up and down, and you're just mowing down. Specifically, it has to be 2D sprites because it's just so much more fun to mow down 2D sprites in general than like polygons. Like early polygon FPSs are so much less satisfying, but these games like Doom or whatever, you shotgun the corpses and the corpses stay there. It's so satisfying.
It is satisfying. You're right. It's like Doom is like Doom 1 specifically, it just nails this formula so well. Doom 2 unfortunately suffers from like bad level design a lot of the time, I feel. So
I've never done a full playthrough of Doom 2, but I mean Doom 2 is very much a retread of Doom 1, just with like a few extra enemies.
Yeah, they enhanced it a hell of a lot. Like they threw in some really cool ideas, but then they kind of broke it with a poor approach to level design that they took. Yeah, I'm not happy about it. Is Amaranth subscribed to your channel?
Yes.
I'm asking the question because it's in the chat, that's all.
I'm pretty sure she's been gifted a sub at this time, yes.
Oh, there you go. That's good.
I'm sure she's watching. Can't wait to see every new stream.
Are you planning to go to Vegas this year?
What's at Vegas?
I don't know. MacLad asked, are you planning to go to Vegas this year? So
no. Unfortunately not. But I'd like to go to America sometime.
Yeah, me too. My plan for my trip to America is like the first time I go, as long as I'm not dragging the family along with me, I'll do this, is like, I want to take the map out of like the Terminator, the first Terminator game that Bethesda released, and I want to use that to navigate LA. You know, and I've got, like, it's
supposed to be accurate, but I don't know how much it's changed
and
since
Manhunt in New York.
Yeah,
I'll take that, go to New York and travel through New York using that map, like navigate using paper maps from video games of the 90s. Like I want to do a tour of America and do that.
That sounds like a very good idea.
Yeah, I think it would go down well. All right.
Amaranth gifted a sub, by the way. Now subscribe to Fractal Mind Mike.
Thank you, Phenomenon.
She's going to be in here any second to check out the action.
Oh, just in case people are wondering, all the alerts are turned off and all the sound commands are turned off for the podcast recording, but we'll put it back on later. And then I'll have to go through and say thank you to everybody again. Finn just had a comment on game dev. We were talking about game dev a little while back. Phenomenon had a comment about that. It's been 10 years since he tried doing any game dev stuff. It's mad time sink. You need a bajillion skills. It's so fun, but heck yeah, you need a team. That's not a question, but I just thought I'd read it out.
You don't necessarily need a team. You can be a little bit more of an auteur, but the scale has to be small. You definitely need a team if you're making something that's simply not possible by one person. And what's not possible by one person is your own determining factors, I guess.
Yeah, I like making stuff by myself. Like I like the creative control, but I also think I've worked with a team a couple of times, and I definitely helped like with certain aspects of it, like letting go of certain parts of it, and like being able to say like, hey, can you take care of the X? And then it's like I don't have to worry about that. So it's actually relieving. I would feel like I would always need full control doing everything myself. Even though I could always get a pixel artist and stuff that's way better than me, it feels so fulfilling being the sole creator of something. I prefer that definitely, but I can see the advantage of taking somebody else's help. But like, I also spent like, I started making games pretty much as soon as I got in front of the computer and understood like what programming was. I just started trying to make games. So like, I've been doing it for a long time. So I you know, and I like creating artwork. I mean, I know how to do 3D modeling and illustration and pixel art and programming, level design.
The concept of the multi-creator has always fascinated me, and I've always strived to be like main inspiration is by these certain developers where I know that they're the dudes that did all the art and all the programming and game design. Yeah. Dudes like Manfred Trans. I'm like not even 1% of Manfred Trans. Manfred Trans is like a god, but
wow. Yeah. What about music and sound design?
Well, that's the thing. Like, I don't. Like, you could do the music yourself easily, but I don't know if it's for me. And definitely like any kind of part that's easily separated from the core, just pixel art and game design and programming, I think is the easiest for me to where I'll be like happy and satisfied doing what I did, and then just having side parts like done by other people. Like I got Jiggy to make the thing for Waterworld for my so game.
Good too. He's such a talented artist. I swear, man. Like
I know Jiggy's like really similar to me with his concept of what's good for like cover art and compositions and stuff. So he's my like go-to because I know like our brains are very similar with what we want or what's good for a thing. So it's very easy. Like basically when I presented my concept to him or when he presented his concept to me, I forget who did it first. It was like the exact same thing, like what's in our heads, like the mariner in the middle, the characters in the background, like the composition, like the same. Like we just know what type of things because we both know like all the old Japanese video game cover arts and stuff so well.
And those in turn were like heavily inspired by like those 80s and 70s like movie poster sort of designs as well.
Yeah, right? All that type of stuff.
Yeah.
But music, I don't think I want to spend the time to get. I mean, I could get like a little keyboard. I can get like a thing. I've done little bits of music stuff before, but.
Yeah, I don't have the musical talent. I've tried. I'm gonna have to try and pick it up because I want to do it at least once. Like try and get a decent track down. Yeah, one day. More questions. This is actually a really good question from Father Axekeeper about making contacts overseas in early days. So like, how did you make your first contacts overseas, and what was there a language barrier?
Contacts?
Like yeah,
like I mean, people that I know, like friends.
I guess that's what they mean. I think specifically like talking probably about like learning about foreign games that aren't English or aren't translated or anything like that.
I mean, most of that was just done on my own accord, just looking at sites and like the language barriers is not that bad. Like if I'm on like a French site reading about games or Spanish, it's pretty similar to English. Like it's not that hard to figure it out. Like you can go through it, but these days it's super easy with translation. So
yeah. I'm seeing some other comments like 1cc Waterworld and stuff like that. But yeah, I'll try. I haven't finished my 1cc. I tried to 1cc it and I kept on failing on one part.
Have you found all the secrets?
Yeah, I've got 100% on the game except for I just can't 1cc it, and it's like it's literally just a matter of time. I just need to give it a couple more tries. Like when I was trying to do like just one or two runs at a time, and then I'd go on and do something else. So if I sat down and gave it,
it's very much a thing where it's not necessarily hard in concept. It's just hard stringing it together because everything is set. You know what's going to happen. You know how to dodge everything. It's just a matter of stringing it together. When I was testing it, it was all easy peasy, right? Like it was all easy peasy, but there was one part that would always mess me up and it would always end my damn runs.
Yeah.
For some reason, there's like a mental thing that happens, and I've seen it happen with other people that were doing it as well. The same thing happened to them.
Right.
It's like the part that you think is easy becomes hard. That damn blimp with the arrows coming out. It's like, well, no, it's just dodge up or low. But for some reason, there's something about that blimp scene.
It feels like there's like a difference between the graphic showing on the screen and the sound effect to tell you that the arrows are coming. Like,
oh yeah, when it goes like, whoosh, but it's like yeah. So it really messes with your brain.
Yeah.
Sometimes you hear that whoosh and you move into it, and it's coming and. But the thing is, if you die and you lose the 1cc run just before that, then you do it easily because there's no stress. Like, it's really, I don't know. It's
definitely doable. The one that really got my goat a bit was the deacon, because I would go onto the screen and it seems like there's like a global timer, and if you're not on the right tick of the global timer, he'll like shoot straight away or something.
Oh yeah.
And I'm not like, and most of the time you go on the screen, you got a bit of time to like, okay, I'm on this screen, and then you can react. But like, it's not that hard, like you said. But if you're not prepared,
sometimes you forget. Yeah, you just forget that it's just you enter and straight away.
Yeah, like that Zed like attack is like, oh god.
Yeah, that's such a silly boss fight. I was really struggling to come up because like I said, it's like an LCD game. There's not much you can do, so I had to come up with a new type of attack, so it's unique all the way through the game. It's like the whale fin, the big serpent. You have to move 2 steps instead of 1 step to dodge it.
Yeah.
But that thing, I like, okay, how about it goes up and then down? But it looks so silly.
Do you have
names?
It's funny. Do you have like your own internal names for like each of the characters? Like, is like
they're all they're all the official names.
Oh, they're all officially named.
So yeah, like the serpent being the whale fin. I learned that from the Atoll videos.
Yeah. What about the Alien Lord side of thing? Those aren't in the movie.
Which
the Alien Lord and all the aliens?
Oh no, yeah, like the aliens, the meme part. Yeah, it's silly. Just silliness.
No name.
That's why I gave them generic names. Like in the staff role, it's just Alien and Alien Lord. It had to be generic, so people knew it was a silly generic meme. Right. Because if I gave them unique names like the Dozoba or whatever, it's like, oh, is that from the comic? That might be from the comic.
Oh,
or
right.
something.
I forgot that the comics exist. That's definitely I could see how that could be confusing. Then so. No,
I mean, some people might still think it could be a thing from the comic, but I did make it fairly obvious. It's just alien. It's a silly part.
Yeah, you need the Geiger section, so you made the Geiger section.
Yeah, it's just a silly part once he finds dry land.
Yeah. In high school, I studied Geiger. Was like my year 12 assignment. Like we got to choose an artist to study, so I studied Geiger. But this is at a Christian school.
Yeah,
and so you can imagine
that's hilarious.
bringing in all this artwork that's like erotically charged images.
Erotic aliens. Erotic.
It was a good time. Yeah,
he's definitely an artist where everyone knows him from just like Aliens, but not everyone would know who he like. It's Geiger. Like a lot of people just don't like. Every single person knows the design, but not everyone knows him. That's the interesting thing. Yeah,
and you can see like that influence was like pretty broadly applied across a lot of media as well. So you get stuff that looks kind of like it, but it's not necessarily.
Well, yeah, I mean it's the most common thing in old video games. That's why it's such a thing on my stream. It's like every action game we play, there's going to be a Geiger stage at some point or a Geiger alien at some point. It's always going to come.
I'm still catching up with the chat, and I'm like seeing greetings and stuff in the chat too. Like, hey. What's up, Mike? Stuff like that. So
what's up, chat?
Yeah. Hello. I'm just looking for the questions here. So here's a good one. Oh, when we were talking about, actually, I just realized this is relevant to something we were talking about like half an hour ago. The Tom Hanks game in Big. Somebody actually made that, right? Like, I forget the name of it, the wizard.
I don't know that. I've never seen that movie.
Oh, you've never seen the movie Big?
No.
Okay. So in Big, there's a graphic adventure game, like text parser game, and somebody like made it basically. Yeah, similar story to Waterworld for you and the Simpsons there, but it's actually like I played it on my stream like I don't know a year or so ago maybe, and it's like pretty well done. It's pretty well executed. It's CGA style graphics, like DOS game. Yeah. Anyway. Maybe you should check that one out. I just can't remember the name of it right now. You probably
it's always interesting. I'm surprised no one's made like Bloodstorm or whatever.
Sorry. Oh, Bloodstorm. Yeah. I don't know.
The thing about a lot of games that are like that, like someone made the Lee Carvello's putting challenge game on itch and stuff.
See, that's good. That's good. I think because like you can imagine a whole game out of that.
Well, that's the thing. It's not a whole game. Like,
oh really?
That's the point. Like a lot of the times I see this type of stuff,
just like a meme.
It's just it recreates what you see in the show, and that's it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And there was that Steamed Hams adventure game, which is just plays out basically the scene.
Yeah. That one I remember is actually quite elaborate. Like
it's well done.
Maybe not in terms of gameplay, but it's got a lot of like art. I mean, it's been a while since I've seen it, but I remember it was quite elaborate and impressive. The Steam Dance.
Yeah, it's actually good. Like you said, like execution very good, but like gameplay, there's like they didn't like imagine more to the scene or do anything.
Not like a full
additional.
Game, sort of full game and.
Mm-hmm. There was also somebody was trying to work on a Seinfeld based adventure game, graphic adventure, but that I think
I would be paranoid about that. That's the one license you can't go near.
Yeah, it seemed like it didn't go ahead. They got canned like pretty much.
You can't go near Seinfeld, you get destroyed.
Yeah.
But it is the license that needs a point and click adventure game with good writing the most, and it's perfect. It's perfect for a point and click adventure game in every way.
Yeah.
You can imagine if Jerry was a gamer and he would have went and got LucasArts to do it. Now, I couldn't imagine anyone else except LucasArts being hired to do that because they had the most prestige because the name and everything.
Yeah.
But,
well, he's a huge Superman fan, so I'm trying to think if there's like someone associated with that brand. But I can't think of anyone that would be trustworthy for the license. So yeah, I don't know.
If only Seinfeld was produced by Spielberg or something, then there would be a DOS game.
Yeah. There's Homie the Clown DOS game, which I've tried a few times. Andrew sent that. I didn't know it existed. Andrew sent it to me, and I was like, I might play this, and then I better have a quick look at it just to see, like, you know, if I understand the humor and stuff. And I was like, okay, it's kind of interesting, but yeah, I haven't tried to stream it yet.
Have you played Capstone? Actually, put out some really high quality, weird point and click adventure games. Capstone put out Wayne's World, and Beverly Hillbillies. And I haven't played them. I don't know how annoying they are to play, but they have really good pixel art. Especially Beverly Hillbillies.
Right.
It's got really good pixel art.
I remember looking at them, but I haven't played them. I kind of like... I like the Capstone boxes, because they're huge. They're big and chunky. Like, they're like, you know...
I don't have any.
20% bigger than, like, an average box, maybe. Really? Maybe 10%. I mean, I can grab one if you want to look at one, but, yeah. They're like... I don't have one close at hand, but yeah.
Yeah, you don't have Corridor 7 in arm's reach?
No, actually, Corridor 7's not a bigger box, though. But I don't know why. But
what about Witch Haven?
Witch Haven's bigger, yeah. I'll grab a couple of boxes. But yeah, anyway, 1 second.
Yeah, no worries. Have either of you guys considered playing William Shatner's Tech War? I have been on the cusp of playing Tech War for a few weeks now. Ever since I've sort of become more into FPSs recently, or wanting to stream old FPSs.
These are all slightly... I just grabbed 3 boxes. But
I was just talking about Tech War.
2 Capstone games and then Twilight 2000. So, like, this is kind of like what I think of, like, about an average box size. Is
that a different cover art, or is that a different game I'm thinking of? Is that the isometric military thing?
Yeah, I think so. It's got 3D graphics, but it has isometric military as well. So
I seem to recall that having a different cover art. Maybe that's a different one.
This might be an alternate cover art. Yeah. So there's that. But then, like, thickness-wise, like, Witch Haven's like a little thicker and it's like a lot taller.
Oh, Witch Haven needs to be bigger than the other boxes.
Yeah.
Look at that Ken Kelly cover art.
It's pretty freaking sweet. I do love this box design. It's so good. The game's actually like probably one of the better Capstone FPSs as well.
Oh, I think it's great.
I think it's true. They didn't really nail a lot of FPSs, but this one they did. And this is like the first official build engine release, I think.
Yeah, that's not the Taiwanese.
You've got that, right?
Yeah, this is the first released build engine game, 7 Paladins, and the company behind this, they just straight up told 3D Realms that they never released it.
Yeah.
And there was no way of 3D Realms knowing unless they went to Taiwan to see this on the shelves.
It's hilarious. I love that story because it's like, as far as like 3D Realms knew, like, yeah, the build engine, oh, I guess they just failed to make the game. That's understandable, like, whatever. Language barrier. But, oh man, that looks so good.
Yeah, it's a really cool looking game. It's high quality cover art and everything.
Yeah. You played this, right?
Oh, Zorro. I haven't played it. I've been tempted, but every time I look at it, I'm like, nah, man.
Look, it's got FMV, though.
I know.
It's got high quality FMV. And then the gameplay just really lets it down. Like, if you've ever played, like, Prince of Persia or, like, Another World or whatever, Out of This World, I don't know, whichever one you want to call it. All those games, like Flashback, they play a certain way, and they, like, the rule set is understandable, like, it's comprehensible. But then this, it looks like it should play like those games. It just
I haven't played it, but there's two problems I see with Zorro. One of them is the fact that it's totally broken. Like the controls, like everything is like platforming. You can literally just fall down. Like the first stage has got the big pits going down. You can fall down and just press escape to go to the menu, then go back to the game, and it resets. So you can keep doing that until you just land on the ground and you're safe.
Well, that'd be cheating, though. That's like not. Like,
yeah,
you
I know.
can do that.
You don't want to cheat. But that brings me to the second point of the game, apart from the busted controls, is the fact that the level design is the worst I've seen in any Prince of Persia style game. It's the worst. Like, it is so bad. I haven't even played it, but it's just big random terrain. It's just random terrain, just in like randomly placed everywhere. It's just a mess of garbage.
It's a huge mess. There is like I can see, like, having played through the whole damn thing, there's clearly, like, they thought, like, oh, this is the correct way to go through it, but there's no indication of how to do it, and the layouts is, like, so insane.
This random platforms, it's like the crappiest thing in platformers is when there's no, like, visual guidance or anything. It's just random placed garbage. It's so bad. It's bad visually, and it's bad from a gameplay standpoint.
And then, like, the very first platform that you can jump onto is one that will, if you stand on the left, it will rotate, like, counterclockwise. If you stand on the right, it won't rotate at all. And it's like, it's very confusing. Like,
I remember seeing that now.
Yeah, it's really dumb.
The only interesting bits I saw when I was, like, clicking through it, when I was like, oh, do I want to play this? And it's like every now and then when it changes scenery, and it's like, oh, that's exciting. It's sort of like the Prince of Persia 2 thing where it keeps changing the scenery. But then within 2 seconds of you thinking it could get cool, it just ends up being another big open random terrain thing.
Yes.
Like, just, I couldn't believe it. And then the scenery changes again. You're like, oh, this is kind of cool. It's going, like, flat. It's like linear. This is interesting. And then nonsense again. Then the game just ends and it's just garbage.
And I don't tend to save scum that much in games, but this one, like, you kind of have to if you want to, like, get through it in a reasonable time. So I ended up suffering through it a lot because I was like, oh, I'm back at the start of the level. I'll have to figure out the path again. And then, like, there's, like, a later fortress level with these cannons that they just shoot out they come out of a porthole in the side of the fort and just, like, randomly spin around, and then they'll just shoot at you or in a direction. It's really crazy. It doesn't make sense. Like, it's really
Retro Island Gaming mentioning the best cinematic platformer I think I've ever played.
Oh my god, Bermuda Syndrome. I have that on the shelf.
I love that game. That game's incredible. It is incredible.
Yeah, I guess I do have to go back and try it at some point, but man,
it's visually such a spectacle. The graphics in that game are amazing, and it's a synthesis of both types of cinematic platformer. It's like a very literal synthesis between Prince of Persia and Another World, because
Prince of Persia so good. That's the thing. Like, I've seen
it looks amazing.
The screens for this so many times, and, like, that's why I bought it. It was cheap too.
And it's a true synthesis, because, like, Prince of Persia is like the catacombs where you're running and doing platforming. It's more platforming based, whereas Another World is set piece based with like visual puzzles based on set pieces.
Yeah.
So the surface of this game, all these spectacular scenes with the dinosaurs on the surface, they're the part that's Another World. But then eventually, every now and then, it's like at intervals you go into dungeons, and the dungeons are identical to Prince of Persia. And then at the end of the game actually pretty much breaks the fourth wall and says, like, are you a prince from another world or something like that? Like, and like, yeah, it synthesizes both together. It's really crazy. Like, it's very much Another World, Prince of Persia, and they just combine them.
Yeah.
And then with amazing production values, all the puzzles are really fun to figure out.
It looks good. I tried recently. I tried Hunter Hunted for the first time.
Oh, that game!
It's not very good. It's not.
Yeah,
very
I remember
good.
playing the demo, and it was weird. And I've literally never gone back to it. Like, for some reason in my head, I have a feeling like, was that just a multiplayer game? Was it just deathmatch? But I don't think it was.
It's not just deathmatch. It does support multiplayer and co-op and deathmatch.
There's like a single player.
It's got like
story?
40 or 60 single player levels, and then another like 20 or 40.
Oh, so it's like,
levels.
Is it just like the same thing over and over again with different layouts or something? Because
it's not exactly that, but yeah, it feels a lot like it does.
I don't know.
It's got a story, and it's got like cool cinematics. It grabbed my attention when I was a kid, but when I finally actually played it recently, I was like pretty big letdown, because I was expecting more cinematic platformer kind of gameplay and like, you know, progression through it that way, but it's like, it's not that. And like, you can just sort of select the level that you want to play. It's like, you don't really feel, it's not, didn't feel invested in it at that point.
Yeah.
But like, the idea is collecting parts for cars so that you can get to the next place and eventually build a spaceship and leave, but like, that really doesn't come through in the gameplay.
I would have to look at it again, but it's always seemed unappealing. Like the whole game looked like the same tile set or something.
It's a real mash of ideas. It is very much like same looking too. Yeah. It doesn't have a strong appeal anymore.
You can like, there's two characters, right? You turn into the guy, but then there's the werewolf or something.
Minotaur type dude, yeah. And it's like the story is like you're in an alien world with like the alien overlords, and they just like control you, and you're basically in their TV show. Like it's a TV production to entertain the masses of like these competition for survival kind of thing. It's not, I don't know, those sort of stories just never really appealed to me. Like,
what about Smash TV?
I was gonna say Smash TV is pretty cool, but the story is not like what interests me. Like,
well, the story is not really a story, it's just a concept that's cool for an arcade game, essentially.
Yeah, there's that segment in Flashback where you have to do like the Smash TV.
The Death Tower.
Yeah, the Death Tower bit.
I think that's a cool part of Flashback, just because it's very different. Well, not different gameplay-wise, but it is a cool that in this crazy adventure where you start in a jungle and then you're in the city, but then you get stuck in this TV show where you have to win them $10,000 or whatever.
Yeah, you need the money to get to the next step, so you just gotta go on this like side quest to win the TV show.
Flashback 2 is coming out very soon. Paul Cuisset has had a terrible like back catalogue of games at this point. I wonder if it's actually going to be decent.
It'd be nice if it was good. It would be nice. Like Lunark, I played recently. It's a new game that came out, like I think this year, or I think it was this year it came out. Lunark.
This year, I think so. Yeah.
I think they sent me a key for it, so I was like, "Hey, thanks. Yeah, I'll give it a shot, maybe." And then I looked at it, I was like, "Yeah, I'm definitely playing this." So I played through Lunark, and that was like probably one of the better cinematic platformers I've played in a long time. It was pretty good. It
looks very well made. I haven't played it myself. I've just seen some videos of it, some people playing it a little bit.
The pixel art's real good.
It's got really good pixel art. The only thing that I've seen from watching a couple people is like, it seems like there's nothing particularly spectacular about it. It's just sort of like plods along and then ends, and there's nothing really standout about it. Yeah. But it's really well made. It's just solid for what it is, which is fine. I just haven't been excited to be like, oh, I need to buy it and play it now.
Yeah.
It's got an amazing pixel art in it for sure.
Yeah, and it does have like a kind of like, it goes for having a deep story, but it feels very like, I don't want to say derivative, but it is, maybe that is the right word, but
it's just kind of there.
It leaves a lot of the story in the background, like leaves a lot to your imagination, like fill in the blanks. I feel like that's how it's done.
Well, the ultimate game for that, of course, is Another World, where it's specifically doing that.
Yeah.
I've never seen Lunark from the beginning. I don't know how it frames anything. I've just I've literally only seen like the end dungeon and like a middle bit. So my conception of the game, or my idea of the game's all messed up, so I can't really talk about it properly.
Well, if you ever decide you want to go on another cinematic platformer kick, like probably one to add to the list.
There's a bunch that look really cool on Steam. Like what was that other one that's like the castle, the Eternal Castle or something. It looked really cool. I forget the name of it, but some people in chat probably know what I'm talking about. That game looks amazing. That came out a long time ago.
There was also sorry, I got distracted by Redemption. What was I think? Oh man, I really did lose my train of thought just then. Just say something else.
Yeah, Eternal Castle.
Eternal Castle. I'll see if I can bring it up.
It's the game that was marketed as being like a lost. It had like this sort of fake story behind it, or it was like a lost game or something. Yeah. But outside of that story,
I did see this. Yeah.
Like seeing the game in motion is actually quite amazing from what I remember. It looks really amazing in motion.
I'm gonna see if I can grab a video.
God, I need to play that at some point.
Yeah, it's even got the fake DOS loading.
Yeah, there's like a bunch in development as well, although I forget the names, but it's definitely a bunch. Eternal Castle. Yeah, it looks like it's all like CGA, but then you see the game in motion. It's clearly a modern game.
Yeah, it's like rotoscope looking almost.
Yeah, it's like really flashy from what I recall. Yeah, like you can immediately this is like Bermuda Syndrome right here. It's like the animations in Bermuda Syndrome.
Wow, Bermuda Syndrome animations are that good. I think I've only seen screenshots of it.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, well, I mean, it's all rendered 3D characters, but it is this sort of thing as well. Yeah,
fluid movement stuff. This looks great. Yeah, I remember seeing this and thinking, I have to try this out sometime. I forgot to actually try it out.
Yeah, it looks really cool.
Yeah. I'll leave that playing beneath us while we continue. There's so many questions in the chat. I don't think I can get to them all, but I'll try and get through some. What's your from Phenomenon? What's your favorite jank game?
Where do we even begin with that?
Okay, it's a big question.
Like jank means that it has to be misdesigned and terrible in some way, but still good.
Right.
And games like Sword of Sodan on the Amiga, people might think that fits the category, but it doesn't at all. Like Sword of Sodan is legitimately awesome and well designed on the Amiga with its mechanics and stuff. It's crispy. You don't take attrition damage. You can actually avoid the damage if you get good at the game.
Yeah.
So something like that doesn't count. I don't know, stuff like the arcade version of Double Dragon 3 definitely counts. The arcade version of Double Dragon 3 has got to be the jankest Japanese developed beat 'em up, but it's awesome.
I've never played it.
It's awesome. It's really cool. It's really fun when you know how to play it. So stuff like that. There's a bunch of DOS games. There's a Taiwanese beat 'em up, the Heroes of Liangshan Mountain or whatever it's called. It's a phenomenal looking beat 'em up with these exquisite Chinese water painting backgrounds and stuff, but it's really jank. When you hit stuff, the hitboxes are all messed up, but it's still fun and amazing regardless of that. So yeah, I could sit here all day listing games like that are cool, even though they've got a lot of problems.
So jank games that are I don't know, often when I encounter jank, if it's, I don't know, maybe my concept of jank is slightly different.
Yeah, it depends on your concept of jank.
Yeah, I don't really favor jank games that much, I guess. If it's truly jank, I'm not going to play it. But maybe there's jank elements to something that I like. I don't know. Yeah, that one might.
Plenty of cryo games, bloody.
That's true.
I mean, something like Dio Gratias is beyond jank. That's just broken game to straight up broken.
Cyclones is kind of jank. Cyclones is an FPS from.
I know it. I've never played it.
Know how to make FPSs yet, so it's a bit jank.
Retro Island Gaming says Red Crystal. Red Crystal is definitely beyond jank. Red Crystal is a very misdesigned, atrocious mess of a game, but it's cool. It's awesome. I always want to.
If it's cool,
if it's cool, I'm always I kind of want to play it.
Well,
even it's terrible.
I have that feeling from the sequel to Flashback, Fade to Black.
Oh yeah,
I want to play it, but also I know I'm going to hate parts of playing that
game. It looks like a slog. Like it looks like a tedious slog of annoyance, but it looks like it could all, like, there's awesome stuff about it. At the very least, you have to play the DOS version, not the PS1 version. The PS1 version looks like a torturous experience.
Oh, really?
Well, the DOS version's
the only one I've actually played. So I played the demo, and I was enthralled by the morphing aliens. Like, they do this like weird like morph into like a green blob on the floor, and then like it's all 3D polygonal stuff too. So it's like it's jank looking, but it's also like really evocative and like got my brain driving on like, oh, what's this? What are these aliens? And it was interesting.
Have you ever played Alien Odyssey on DOS?
I'm gonna bring that up on because I'm not sure. The problem is I played a ton of games now on stream in rapid fire, like not full playthroughs, and so it's hard to know. Alien Odyssey. Let me just bring it up. Odyssey. Spelled that right, I hope. No, I didn't. Okay.
That's one that you could say is jank, but kind of cool. It's a very strange game, but
trying to get I have not played this, but it looks pretty awesome actually.
This is Argonaut's follow-up to Creature Shock.
Really?
Yeah. Like,
okay.
I had this as a kid.
Is it still light gun based, like style?
So it's split into different genres, and the bulk of the genre is Alone in the Dark clone, essentially. It's before Resident Evil 1, but after Alone in the Dark. So it's got the tank controls, 3D dude on pre-rendered background. So straight up just like literally straight, like that, like literally straight up Resident Evil type gameplay.
Yeah.
But there is rail shooter parts. The game starts with a rail shooter part that's just like an FMV rail shooter, just like Creature Shock was. So those scenes on the speeder bike where it's like Return of the Jedi, that's the first scene in the game. But the game just has a bizarre, like, I was subjected to it as a kid, but it is like really, I don't even know how to describe it. Like, there's stuff in this game that's just bizarre. Like, the first thing when you get to the first Resident Evil part, and there's this gigantic fan. I think that was a screenshot right there. And I played this as a kid, and you don't know how to get past the fan. And when you touch the fan, your dude just becomes gutsed. Like, he just gets caught in the fan and just explode. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
Purple blood. And as a kid, that's all I ever saw. I'm like, you can't get past the fan. Like, as a kid, I was just walking into this giant fan, but eventually you realize that you're supposed to use your gun and you shoot the fan and take it out and all this stuff. There's like a separate button to whip out your gun and all this stuff. And then there's all these weird details, like, it's all silent. Like, the game's like all silent when you're walking around. You're like, there's footsteps, it's all ambient, and you shoot.
I'm just trying to get over the fact this is the Creature Shock devs.
Yeah, Argonaut.
That's crazy.
This is when they rage quit Nintendo, I guess, and they started doing their own 3D stuff. But like you walk around and it's just like all ambient. I remember playing it, and you shoot like an alien. And there's normal sound effects, just doo doo doo, and you shoot the alien, he's like, oh, and he dies. Yeah. And then you just hear like a voice of the main character going, he's like laughing to himself. And I'm like, these bizarre details in this game are unlike anything I've seen in a game before. Like, these bizarre
I love it. I love the sound of that. That sounds very good.
It's literally, he literally cackles to himself when you shoot like aliens, and it's really like subdued. It's so fun.
Oh, man. The fan scene is pretty cool.
The fan is absurd. There's multiple fan death scenes as well. This is like underneath you, but there's the horizontal one as well.
Yeah. I mean, okay.
You might like it. I don't know, but it's like,
I hadn't played Creature Shock since I was a kid, and I decided, like, I was doing FMV. I was on an FMV game kick, so I was like, I'm going to play Creature Shock.
Yeah.
Because I remember I liked that when I was a kid. And I played it, and I was like, this is really bad. Like, I don't know why I liked this. It's not a very good game. Like,
what was your experience with it? Did you get stuck in a maze, or you just hated fighting the monsters?
It was mostly the maziness of it. And, like, the monsters are like, I could surmount that if I wanted to, but it's like, do I want to if I have to navigate through a maze to get to each thing, and it's like not the same maze every time, it feels like.
So the thing about Creature Shock is that I think it's amazing. I love it. I think those pre-rendered battles against the aliens are just so incredible looking. They look incredible now.
Yeah, that's why that's the part that was stuck in my brain from childhood, was like that part.
It's like it's old pre-renders that are dated, but it still has such a more striking, unique look now, all these years later, compared to just like looking at Quake clones, which is polygon graphics. Like having that gigantic, especially when you get to some of the bosses which are out of control, these bosses that are pre-rendered and they get right up in your face, and it's really sort of like striking and shocking, like fighting these monsters where it feels like they've got a sense of weight to them. It's really incredible, but the mazes are terrible. You have to play the game with a map. Like you have to play the game with a map, otherwise it's just an exercise in frustration. So I got a map and I finished the game with a map. Without a map, I'm not playing that game. You follow a map, you know where to go, you fight all the monsters and stuff, and it's cool. But
I think
mazes.
Maybe if I played it with a map, I would be okay, because it's just
you
like
need them. You can't.
How to get back to the fight just so I could get past it is like that was the pain. Like
without a map, you have no idea where you are, and fights get repeated in different nodes, so you don't even know if you're in the same spot a lot of the time.
Right. And they reuse a lot of screens because
there's a lot of unique enemies, but when you don't know where you are in a maze and you're like, is this the same spot or whatever? And when I started trying to map it, you can't even map it because the north, south, east, west compass thing is not consistent. It actually moves. And it's not just like a square grid. It's actually like this node might take you over here if you look at the map. It's all jumbled. It's a mess.
You'll travel through the tunnel and it'll take you about the same time to go to the next screen, but like really, when you go right, you think you're like, oh, that should take me back to this place, and it's like, well, this is a completely different place, and now I'm confused.
It's just
happened a lot.
You need a map. I got a map and I finished it, and I thought it was awesome with the map, but without the map, it's annoying. I have no idea why they designed it that way. They should have just made it 100% linear, and it should have essentially just been like a boss rush where it's like this monster and then this monster, all the unique monsters in a row,
and the 3D shmup bit. They just get rid of the 3D shmup bit because I didn't.
Oh yeah, it's pretty bad.
I didn't appreciate that.
Luckily there's only 2 in the game. Like I was fine with it because there was only a few, but they did get rid of it in the console versions, Saturn and PS1.
Okay,
they got rid of it.
Okay. Maybe the PS1 version's like slightly better.
But it would be better with the FMV like shooting scenes to just have it be linear. I don't know why they made it a maze.
Did the PS version support the light gun?
I forget. Well, I don't even know because I never played those versions. I always felt like I just needed the DOS version because it's the complete one.
Yeah.
Even if you don't want those ship scenes.
Ship scenes were just not fun. Like I got frustrated with it because I was like, I just want to get to the part where I can walk through the maze and shoot the dudes. And like,
little did you know that the maze would make you go even more insane.
The maze made me sad. So this is one of those ones where I was like, I was a dumb kid. I loved this game for no good reason, apparently. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you're right.
Well, as a kid, you would have just seen the first couple of scenes and died on them, and then that's it. And no, but if you play through it, you need a map.
Well, if I ever go back to it, I'll take that advice on board. I'm going to skip a couple of these questions about like leapfrog streams and Pico and stuff like that. We talked about that stuff at length. All right. I should have queued up another question. I just realized I didn't do that, and now I'm.
It's all right. You've got a screenshot of your favorite part of Creature Shock on screen.
Yeah, so exactly.
That's all people
need. On there. I mean, we have Andrew just saying do it, and we were probably talking about something like an hour ago that was like very interesting.
Yeah, do it. Play Bermuda Syndrome. That's
probably it was Bermuda Syndrome. Yeah, who knows?
Play Bermuda Syndrome.
Oh, you know what? I think it might have been when I went out to deal with Situation. They might have been encouraging you to show something on the screen. I'm really far behind on the chat. I hope chat doesn't mind if I scroll through it a bit quicker. There's a lot of people continuing the recommendation for J-Swat even after that, so that's good. Comments on Alone in the Dick. It's good. So, like, how did you come across that game, actually? Because that is an interesting one. Like, I've liked Alone in the Dark since it came out, and I never heard of that game until like I saw it mentioned on your stream.
No,
Like,
it's just part of the niche, which was a pretty big niche of Japanese multimedia games, just like there was a massive amount of Western multimedia games with the advent of CD-ROMs, which started with Macintosh and then went into Windows 3.1. So there was a lot of Windows 3.1 Macintosh dual releases. So it just fits into that category. The mainstream in Japan, like the mainstream in the West at the time would have been like playing Doom on DOS.
right.
The mainstream in Japan would be playing whatever anime adventure game or RPG on PC-98.
Yeah.
And then the niche thing, if you were like wanted to be ahead of the technology curve, whatever, is you got a Macintosh or a Windows 3.1 system, and then you got the CD FMV games. So Alone in the Dick is just one of thousands of that type of game where it's just like live action, like a really crap. They're almost all made with Director, like Macromedia Director, all the Director games, like. Which I love. I love exploring all that stuff. But yeah, it's part of them, but it's an adult one from Japan, and they just got a particularly goofy name.
It's got a great name.
Yeah.
Definitely. I had to use Director, like it was part of my curriculum. Oh my gosh. After this is in tertiary education, not during high school. So I was like, we have to use this like shitty old program. Like at the time it was already like, why are we using Director? Yeah. It was so bad. And they're like, oh, you can use it to make DVD menus. I'm like, who's going to be making DVD menus when I'm in the workforce? Like at the time I wasn't sure which direction I was going to go with my life. So I was just like taking all kinds of Anyway, that was weird. It was a weird time. Director, man, I hated Director.
So you look at the back of the boxes on all these games; it says "made with Macromedia" or whatever.
Yeah,
made with Macromedia every single time. Like, I mean, I've got so many of them behind me here. I mean, here is the game in question. I just need to cover up some of the front, but Alone in the Dick.
There it is.
So a lot of these games, they just come in like these dual cases and. This is 1995, but
the title looks good. Like, it's a good title. Well rendered.
It's a good title. It's a good title, yeah. And QuickTime, they've always got the QuickTime logo.
Yeah. So
one of those games.
Actually, have you played? This is a game I've been meaning to stream for a long time, but I kind of like whatever. Haven't gotten to it yet. Gadget. It's another Japanese.
I haven't played it. No.
It looks really interesting.
From Synergy.
Yeah, apparently it's pretty big influence on like Dark City and The Matrix and other popular Hollywood films. So
yeah, I guess it got like a little bit of because that was like the era of games where it was like, oh, if you were like a niche fancy pantsy artistic person, you're like you're not playing Mario, you're not playing like whatever, you're not playing like the
Doom is so lowbrow. You need to be playing these highbrow
that's like the Hollywood highbrow. They're going for like the Windows 3. It's like the only game that Roger Ebert ever reviewed that he played because someone suggested it to him was Cosmology of Kyoto, which is another one of these Japanese Windows 3.1 Macintosh games made with Director. It's like highbrow sort of. That sort of thing. Gadget caught on as being like the weirdo game that you sort of knew about, but and little did those people know that those developers did all these other games, but they just didn't know because Gadget was the one that got the notoriety or whatever. Yeah, like that same company in Japan, I'm pretty sure they had way more success with Tetsujin series. Oh. Which are FPSs, by the way.
Interestingly enough.
Very, very rare Japanese-developed FPS games, Tetsujin and Tetsujin Returns. And then they also published the Horror Tour series, which only the first one was localized into English as Zedis, the Servants of Sheol.
Okay.
But there was 3 of them in Japan. And that same company also put out the Yellow Brick Road games, which are these sort of weird adventure RPG things based on Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
They got a whole lineup of weirdo sort of artsy-fartsy type games.
Okay.
Which I love.
Yeah. I mean, that's something that I've wanted to explore more, is like some of those, because like I haven't played a lot of foreign games, surprise, surprise. So like, I wouldn't mind trying to explore more of them, but sometimes I feel like it's a bit intimidating because you don't know what's actually going to be worth playing, right? You have to actually spend some time looking at the lists and like going through the screenshots, maybe watch a video clip of it here and there.
Appeals to you, you just gotta find it.
Yeah, it's a lot of effort to find something, I think.
Yeah, like a lot of them. I mean, Japan kind of started that weird side niche with early Macintosh games, and then it kind of led into the ultimate one that brought it to the forefront was Myst. Myst was the one that like mainstreamed that weird subgenre. But there was like a lot of games that were even before Myst, which then inspired lots of stuff in Japan as well, like Spaceship Warlock, the Journeyman Project.
Yeah, right.
Like, what's that other one called? Like, I forget the name of it. It's the same. I think it's the Spaceship Jump Raven is the sequel.
Oh, right.
What's the bloody game called? I don't know. But yeah, those were all really popular.
I remember
in Japan.
looking at it when Andrew was playing Jump Raven. I remember looking, but I don't remember now.
Lunicus, that's it.
Thank you.
Lunicus.
Yeah.
Lunicus, which got all the artwork redrawn for the Japanese release in anime style by a famous manga artist. that was put out by Bill Appleton's company, who used to make 2D or like black and white Macintosh games like Creepy Castle. He was the one behind this company.
Dark Castle?
It was Dark Castle inspired, but
okay.
Bill Appleton made his own inspired games. And then eventually he started putting out this early Macintosh stuff that was mostly like literally sold more in Japan than in in the West.
So like the problem with Mac stuff is like often like there's not a DOS box for Mac yet, right? But I know Tony's working on one. Mace, M-A-C-E. But there's no DOS box yet for Mac stuff because like, you have to get that API and hardware
Mac emulation. I've emulated Mac before. I haven't done it in a while because I need to set it up on this new computer and stuff. But yeah, Mac's it's always tricky. People are always like the main reason why it's so much more popular to emulate like Super Nintendo and even DOS with DOSBox is that it's so much harder to install a virtual Windows 95 or whatever and then put games on it. That's such a hard, like no normal person, even people that were really into the games don't have the enthusiasm to figure that out.
And if you get really PCM and you set it up and you finally get it working, it's pretty fragile as well. Like you don't always, it's not always going to work the next time you try a game on it. So.
If you're going to do a raw, you literally need like an installation of Windows 95, Windows 98, and you need PCM, and then you need to make a hard disk, and then you need to run the installation of Windows 95. Like there's all these layers of complexity, which you might be savvy enough to figure it out, but you just can't be bothered. It's like a whole day you have to figure out, like a whole night trying to figure this out. So most people don't do it. But yeah, if you can find just like a download that has everything already made, or it's like a pre-made HD for installation for PCM, it's a lot easier, but that's never going to be mainstream. And GOG only offers very small amounts of games in the grand scheme of things.
Well, they can only do stuff that's not like encumbered by licenses, and it's it's not just like the game. It's like the operating system it was designed to run on. Like they can't legally take something like the copyrighted OS and emulate it unless they re-implement it. So
it's crazy. It's just it's such a destroyed. It's a part of video game history where it's just that's the biggest problem with video games, not being able to play this old stuff. It's just nothing like movies or music. That's why music and movies are always going to be more mainstream because you don't have to do it. It's like
a lot less encumbrance there, surprisingly.
Yeah.
Have you ever played a game called Super Her?
I think I've seen it, like that shareware looking. It's like the shareware menus, looks like Gazillionaire Deluxe or whatever.
It's like somebody took like Visual Basic and MS Paint and they're like, I'm going to make a game.
I've like seen it. I haven't played it.
I don't know if
is that a boxed game or was that a shareware mail order thing?
I've got it in a box, but it's like it's like an also game inside the box. So like, I got the box because of Nightmare 3D, which you probably remember is Hugo's House of Horrors. FPS. And then that happened to have Super Her on the disc in there. So I was like, oh, okay. That's a game I remember playing when I was a kid. But yeah, I did eventually stream it, and it was a bit jank, but got it working well enough. And yeah, it's kind of a mess. It's like an RPG. It's a weird RPG adventure.
Yeah, I remember noticing that as like this weird RPG thing.
Yeah, you apply like different stats and
with like the very sort of Windows 95, Windows 3.1 menus that look all ghetto.
Yeah, they didn't put very much effort into the UI. And then it's basically just like, you go punch these gangsters, but you can't like fight this other dude because you're not powerful enough yet. So you got to like find the right items or fight the right people in the right order to get powerful enough. Yeah, it definitely is a game. It's very quick play. It's one of those things like if you wouldn't be able to do a full stream on that game, so you'd have to like get a ton of like those kind of games and just like
even a 30-minute stream is a full stream if there's enthusiasm for that game.
Well, sure. I mean, it's true. That's not false. You're right. Maybe I need to change my perspective on how long a stream should be.
I remember once I got some Russian Windows 95 fishing game, which was sick. It was awesome. But after 2 hours, I had done everything there was to possibly do in the game. I'm like, well, that's the stream.
Yeah.
I can't. I was like, I did full lore on it and everything.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you can knock off early and go do something else.
Start setting up the next game. That's what you do.
Yeah. There are some more questions. I'm getting to the next batch of questions after things. So, retro streamer PVB Herzog Zwi Tawny when? Who's going to organize it?
Herzog Zwei. That's I've never played it.
Is that how it's pronounced, Zwei?
Yeah.
Okay.
I've never played it. It's a Mega Drive Japanese sort of strategy action thing. It's a sequel. It's a sequel to a PC-88 game by Technosoft.
Mm-hmm.
And the PC or the PC-88 game is just like you only go up or down. The map only scrolls up and down.
Yeah.
In Zwei, they made it like a full 8-direction map.
Oh man. Just like a real quick take on it. Looks like Z-like maybe.
Visually maybe, but it doesn't.
Visually.
It's not like Z at all.
Is it more of a
It's basically like an action game. Like the developer of this game was known for their shmups. But there's like a strategy element. Where
I was going to say, is this like a shmup developer or something? Because it does have like some really shmup-looking assets in it. Like
Technosoft. They made a lot of shmups and some sort of like action RPGs in the old days. And
mostly for PC-88 sort of platform, or
they started on computers, but then they got a big sort of market on consoles with the Sega platforms, like Thunder Force series. It started out.
Okay, they worked on Thunder Force.
It started out. It was like an FM7 game on the old Fujitsu computer, and then it was like ported to PC-88 or something, or X1, the Sharp computer. Anyway, it ended up being more popular on the Mega Drive.
Right.
With 3, 4, and eventually 5 came out on the Saturn.
Yeah. My Mega Drive collection is like probably the smallest console collection I have, but yeah, I don't know. I'll have to expand the library from the look of it. Yeah, that's interesting. Okay.
It's a cool game.
I'll keep moving on with these questions. Another comment where there's a few comments actually suggesting we play multiplayer matches together of some description.
June 2.
June 2? I think it'd kick my butt. I don't know.
I've never even played it much.
Oh, really?
You're moving one unit at a time. One unit at a time.
Maybe. There's a suggestion for tribes here, Sausage Tribes. I'd probably hold my own there.
Tim Tam, yes or no? Yes, Tim Tams.
Tim Tam, yes. Yeah. That's a yes, right? There's no...
Tim Tams they're a trap, though, Tim Tams. Like,
I'll just have one?
No, I can't have one. I have to have half the packet.
Exactly.
And it's like $2 for like a whole packet every time. Like, the prices keep falling on those damn things.
They're good, though. And the Tim Tam Slam is just the ultimate snack. Oh, my God.
I've never done that.
What?
No.
You never?
No, I just harvest them raw.
Oh, I mean, it's definitely a good way to eat them, but you gotta do the Tim Tam Slam at least once in a while. It's so good. All right, I'm really trying to find the questions quickly. There's a lot of chat, a lot of good chat too. Scanning through. Man, I'm so far behind. It's unbelievable. I'm sorry, everyone.
The discussion about whether Herzog started the RTS genre.
Oh my gosh.
There is technically Utopia. Utopia was technically the first RTS. I don't know. It really just depends on how you see an RTS. Like the first RTS as we know it with the base building was Dune 2, but Herzog's Vi did an RTS type unit deployment thing before that, and Utopia on the Intellivision is like 1981, and that's technically an RTS where there's two sides versing each other in real time. And there's probably stuff I don't even know about. Yeah. I don't know. There's probably some Avalon Hill DOS game from 1983 that's technically a RTS. I don't know.
Yeah. There probably is. You're right. Dune 1 kind of had real-time combat segments as well, right?
Like technically it was an RTS. Yeah, it's just not in the same sense as like Warcraft or whatever.
No, yeah. Not the same like unit man, like traditional RTS. I guess like if you just say traditional RTS, you pretty closely could say Dune 2 is the progenitor, but yeah. There's always an exception, right?
Utopia was real time, answering the chat. I think it was broken up into turns, but during the turn you are moving in real time. I think, right, with the other player. It's been a long time since I've played it, but yeah, it's basically real time, something like that. And then there's another game called Utopia as well. There's multiple games called Utopia. It's going to be confusing.
Just bringing up these screenshots of Slayer's X because Ian Oblivion has asked, have we seen it?
I might have seen Slayer's X briefly. I've gone through like FPS lists before.
Right. So this is like what year of release did it say? I missed. Hang on, I got to click back to see what year of release it is. Initial release date is 1st of June 2023. So no, I hadn't seen it. That's my birthday. It looks like a build engine game.
I have no
but it looks
idea.
bad. It doesn't. I don't know what to say about this. It looks.
They're deliberately going for like a sort of kitschy look with it.
Yeah, it looks like they're heavily inspired by like Redneck Rampage, which I can't say is a great inspiration. Just graphically. It looks like Redneck Rampage. I don't know. I mean, I'll probably give it a shot. It could be good.
There's a lot of really interesting FPSs.
There is.
That are really obscure. Like, have you ever seen Wrath of Earth? Wrath of Earth looks insane.
Hold on.
It's sort of like it's like FPS, but it's also got like adventure and RPG strategy stuff. You're controlling a ship, but it's FPS.
Yes, I have seen this. I might have even played this.
I've never played it. I just know of it.
I think that I played this very, very briefly once.
I think Kilgore might have streamed it.
Yeah? He probably did. He loves these kind of things. Like, I reckon this looks like a Kilgore game. Yeah, this looks awesome, actually. I think I remember looking at this. I probably played it.
And then there's like another one that I want to stream at some point called Mad Space, which is completely unknown, but it was released in a box. Mad Space, one word. And that game actually has rail FMV sequences intertwined with FPS scenes.
Have you streamed this?
No, but I kind of want to. Yeah, it's like FPS with the two guns, but there's also like rail shooter FMV scenes. It seems out of control.
Wow.
I think it's Russian. It might be Russian developed.
It looks pretty badass, actually. It's like is this like Wolfenstein or no, I can see angled walls. Okay. So it's more like a Doom like engine.
Yeah. Yeah, like I'm really curious because I don't think there's a playthrough on YouTube, so I'm curious to see if there's more FMV scenes interspersed throughout the game. Because I get really excited by rail FMV sequences.
Wait, this is 97?
Yeah, it's really late. There's
Oh
very few
wow, it
copies that
looks.
were ever
I was
released.
thinking it must be like a 94 or 96 game sort
Yeah,
of
yeah,
era. Yeah,
it's like
I guess 97 is not that late, but like 97, we were well into polygonal 3D stuff
yeah,
by
like
then.
Quake looking stuff.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. All right. I'm sorry about the questions chat. I don't know what to say. I tried my best. If there's anybody in chat, I'm just going to skip to the current chat. So if I missed your question, just post it in the chat right now, okay? You've got like 10 minutes because I don't want to keep McCall longer. We're already over an hour. We're almost over an hour over time. So we'll just continue our conversation for a minute here, and we'll give him a chance to pop some questions in.
I have not Kinnikos, Eastern Mind. Yeah, and there's like the sequel to that, right, as well.
Oh,
yeah.
I have not played this, no.
They're like they're more Windows 3.1 artsy, like Myst style stuff again.
Yeah, I avoided a lot of those games growing up because I was like, who wants to play that when you can play like something where you can shoot a guy's face off in 3D? Like,
Gody, you missed the big Australian discussion before we got like the rarest Australian game I knew of up. Kingdom at War.
I may even still have that open somewhere.
Kingdom at War.
I have a lot of things open. Yeah, here you go. It's still open. Yeah, Kingdom at War. It looks really good actually. I want to play it.
Yeah.
I'll have to see.
They're created by the lead designer of Halo 4, apparently.
Exactly. Yeah.
Or at least the lead designer on some part of Halo 4.
There's another Macromedia. Oh, this is another Macromedia, the Eastern Mind, another Macromedia type game. Yeah, that makes sense. How many languages do you know? Do you know?
I only know English.
You only really know English. So when you sit there and you're like
bits
reading
and pieces.
Japanese and stuff, like,
I mean, I know a little bit of Japanese.
right?
I know a little bit of Japanese. I know a little bit of this, a little bit of that, but it's like a little bit of like 12 languages,
right?
Which is all through video games, Korean, you know. But like the only language I'm fluent in is English. And my chat always makes fun of me and says I'm not even fluent in that, so maybe I know no languages.
Yeah, I feel like that too. We're so remote here. Like it's hard to really pick up a language. I think like really well. I mean, I don't know. You're further north than I am, so maybe you have access to more foreign languages than I do. But
it really just depends on your circumstances, really. Like if you're born into a family that's speaking another language, then you're obviously going to know 2 languages. But in terms of anything else, otherwise, you just got to study it yourself. But I just naturally am exposed to so many languages that I can't help but learn a few words here and there.
Yeah.
Languages. The most prolific ones is Japanese, obviously, and French and German, Spanish, but...
Yeah, I have a tiny bit of experience like trying to understand some of those like languages. There was a few things I was interested in when I first got onto the internet that like I just couldn't find English references for. So I'd be like, oh, there's a page here, but it's in German. I guess I'll just try and understand the German. Yeah. But like, yeah, I never really developed any language skills. I regret that. Like
because of games, I've just become so used to every language. So I always watch Let's Plays on YouTube in other languages. I watch Germans all the time doing Let's Plays. Like it doesn't matter to me at all that I don't understand all of it. I understand bits and pieces when it's obvious, but I always watch Let's Players. Like it was always with German strategy games. If I wanted to learn the game, I'll just play like let's play insert German DOS game name, and there's like a let's play for it where they're playing like the game like with Perry Rodan Operation Eastside. There's like tons of German let's plays. I click on them and straight away it's like, "Hallo Leute, it's play this Spiel," and I'm like, yeah, I can't. And like I just watch it like in tons of languages. It doesn't matter to me. Like I'm interested in the game, and even if you don't understand the language, there's somehow this weird sort of learning you do when you're watching someone play a game, and you still learn how to play the game. So
yeah, well, especially if they're reacting to the stuff that's happening on the game, it gives you a lot of context to go. Oh, I think they're probably referring to that. Yeah,
so that's like a big thing, especially for like strategy games for me. Lots of French ones as well.
Yeah, and I know a lot of people in the chat when I'm playing games, they'll be like, "Oh, I learned how to speak English because of like playing this type of game." And it's like,
Oh yeah, especially in like other countries when you grow up playing DOS games or whatever, like you would learn a lot of English.
all right. Well, I did put out that last call for more questions. Kinnikos also asked if you use that thing that Ann K uses to translate games on the fly. I think it means screen translation.
I like Textractor and stuff.
Yeah.
I've used that in a lot of games. The text hookers.
I've seen a few of those tools, and I like. Well, maybe it's not fortunate. I don't know. But I was about to say, fortunately, I haven't really played any games that don't have translations. So there's one game that I played, which was a French text adventure. I think I talked about this last time you were on.
Which French text adventure?
It was now I can't remember the name, but like the woman who couldn't stand computers or something like that.
Oh yeah. I remember that now.
So like I just like extracted the code for that and translated it to English through machine translation and recompiled it and fixed a few bugs because it wouldn't recompile. And
yeah, machine translation can be more than enough to fully understand a game these days with how good it's become, especially with some of those European languages like Spanish and German and stuff. The machine translation is really accurate because they got a similar sentence structure, so it's always a lot easier than the Asian languages.
Right. Yeah.
But even Japanese, you can understand. Even Japanese is good in a translator these days. So.
That's good. Yeah. I regret not learning Japanese. I had a perfect opportunity to do it through school, and I just was like, I don't care about this subject, so I didn't do it.
I learned Japanese in school since primary school, so a lot of it was ingrained since an early age for me. But I never studied extra grammar. I just I can read Japanese pretty quick for certain dialect, they've got 3 different alphabets essentially, and 2 of them I can basically read at the speed of English because I've been doing it since I was a young child. But in order to actually understand like more in depth, you really got to study the grammar.
Yeah, I think that's true. I mean, that's the thing, like the syntax and the grammar of languages is like what confuses me the most whenever I try and pick anything up. So
the thing about learning languages, you're never going to recall any of it unless on a day-to-day basis you're practicing it or being subjected to it. So
yeah, it's true. Like you have to speak the language to learn the language. You have to like immerse yourself in it, and like I think also I've heard, I don't know if this is true, once you learn one language, like and you can kind of speak a second language, picking up a third language is a lot easier. But I can't experience that because I haven't done the first part.
I have not played Urban Assault by German developer TerraTool. FPS RTS hybrid. Let me quickly look that up on Moby Games just so I can see.
Yeah.
Moby Games Urban Assault.
Oops.
Let me see. Oh, I know this box cover. I've definitely seen this box cover before,
yeah,
but
I've
I
seen
haven't
this
played
before.
the game. Yeah.
This is an FPS hybrid, is it? FPS RTS hybrid.
Yeah, I didn't know it was an FPS hybrid.
There was like a few FPS RTS hybrids I tried back in the day, and none of them were great. There was a Tribes 2 mod that did it, and it was kind of good. But you really needed people to be dedicated to play the game, and that's like the thing where it tends to fall down, I think. It's like, it's kind of hard to have people that are interested.
It's like Sacrifice was kind of a hybrid.
Sacrifice was a hybrid, I think. Oh, I think that was I think it was Sacrifice, yeah.
Yeah, Sacrifice from Shiny.
Yeah.
I bought it and I took it back to the shop because it didn't work properly on my computer, if I remember right.
Yeah, I played it for a bit.
And then I guess it's probably not the same category because I don't think there's any base building, but I want to say Giants Citizen Kabuto had something like that going on.
I don't remember that, but maybe it did.
Maybe I'm wrong. It might have just been like a asymmetrical deathmatch thing. Where
asymmetric deathmatch is definitely a thing, yeah. Oh, wow. Father X Keeper actually works as a Japanese translator. I did not know that. Apparently, we were supposed to get a bucket of KFC and some garlic bread and tiramisu after this. So
that sounds like a lot of calories. I'm very tempted, and it's very delicious sounding.
It's too late to eat at the moment. It's like midnight.
You could just go to bed at 5 in the morning and you're good.
Yeah. Yeah, that'll work. Well, I think we've done more than a podcast's worth of content. So I really appreciate you joining me. This is probably the first one I'm going to have to edit as well, because I had to leave the room and there was a couple other interruptions. So
always fun to talk about these games.
Yeah, I love talking about this stuff, and I definitely would like to have you come back on anytime. So
yeah, I'll always be happy to.
Rad. Yeah. And the next time you're in Melbourne, we'll have to do some pinball or something.
I've only ever been to Melbourne once, but maybe it will happen
really?
Again. Yeah, I've been Melbourne once, Sydney maybe like 5 times, but that's about it.
I've only been to Gold Coast twice, so yeah.
Yeah.
Australia is too big. That's the problem. It's like, oh, do I really want to spend that much time traveling? Like, if the major cities were a little bit closer together, it'd be all right, but they're not.
Yeah, instead, you just got the void in the middle that...
Yep. Well, I'm going to continue after this. People, if you want to hang around, I'm going to continue. I'm going to play the rest of Hobbs Barrow, probably. I don't know how much I have left of it. I've never finished it before, so we'll see. And
good luck with that.
Yeah. Thank you. I'm going to need it, maybe. It's actually not that puzzling. It's more of a story-driven game so far, so I hope that the final sequence has more challenging puzzles to throw at me, but we'll see. Moving to the Central Coast, Itsy Nibbles. Yeah, so that's what else should I say? Is there anything else I forgot to do this? Anything else you want to talk about or say before we go? Because it's late.
It's endless. I feel there's so many topics, so it's just there's always going to be something. So I couldn't say. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, then I'll start talking about something else that we could talk about for like another 5 hours.
Yeah, no worries. I mean, look, I'd happily talk for another 5 hours, but I obviously I don't want to make anybody too tired or broken for tomorrow. When's your next stream?
I'm probably going to stream tomorrow.
There you go.
Probably going to stream tomorrow. It's going to be a little bit of there might be some FMV. We'll see. Mm-hmm. I'm not 100% sure yet, but there might be FMV.
Australian FMV?
When am I going to play that game? I don't know. Is there only one Australian FMV game? Is there more than one?
I feel like there's more.
KKND has FMV.
It does. There you go.
Yeah,
there's more
KKND.
than one. Definitely more than one then.
Yeah. Live action FMV, I should clarify.
Mm-hmm. Yes, Night Trap in Brisbane, Bloody Cactus says. Yeah, I think that real pleasure to have you. Thank you again for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
It's awesome.
A lot of fun.
Everybody, if you haven't dropped a follow on McCaw's channel yet, go do that. You're doing yourself a favor. Always a good time to hang out there. Very knowledgeable, as you can tell from this chat that we've been having. Very broad and deep knowledge of video games. Not to mention just an outright good person to hang out and chat with. So once again, thanks. And
I appreciate it. Thank you.
We'll go over to a break screen while I go, clean up, use the facilities and all of that, and then we'll get back into Hobbs Barrow. All right, thanks everyone. I'll thank you, McCall, and I'll see you next time.
Thank you. See ya.
See ya.